There we go. Cool. Yeah, weird. The chat box is being a little funny there. Right. Anyway, that's working. So, hello everybody. Hey there, Luke. Tonight I wasn't quite sure what I was gonna do. I figured I got some car stuff. I got a few things here, but if you guys got anything you want to suggest, I am more than willing to take on your submissions if they frankly don't suck, but I feel like you guys are cool and you have good ideas, so we're gonna roll with that. I'm gonna assume that they're good plans. Oh, David, yeah, I can't make it. Only ambulance in the city, man. All right, buddy, you got calls to do, so I'm not gonna hold you up there, but you're busy, saving lives. That's kind of important. So you just do your thing. Huh. Wow. I'll pop that over. I actually wanted to take a look. Let's see. We've got Craigslist. We got Facebook Marketplace. I'm gonna look at what cars are in the area here, just for fun, for hypothetical builds and whatnot, because it is fun to dream, even if you don't actually plan on doing it. Yeah. So that's that. Let's take a look here, though. I'm gonna go ahead and mix it up. I noticed that there was some funny posting going on over the TRC group. Do you know if Dan ever tried chip then? Yes, Luke, Dan did try chip. He actually posted in the thing. He posted in the group, I believe, or maybe it was just on his personal page of him with an open box of cookies eating from chips. So don't worry, Luke. He has tried it. You're going to have to ask him what he thought of it, though. So, yeah, bud, you're going to have to check that out. No worries. Can't be there for everything. I understand. It's not always going to be the case for everyone that they can see everything at all times. So, oh, sweat. Okay. Anyway, it's weird. When I tried typing into the chat on my window over here, it's like, oh, please log in. And I'm like, I have to be logged in to stream. So I don't know what it's doing. It's being weird. But anyway, I can type in this Chatterino box just fine. So we'll go with that. Anyway, a little behind the scenes stuff. Well, tell me, how are your guys' Sunday nights going? Because mine has been, well, busy. Lots of stuff going on. Definitely a little on the interesting side because today, weirdly, I had to sing for my supper in a sense, where I went to my aunt and uncle's house, and my uncle, um, he's a playwright, so he actually writes plays, and he's got a pretty dark sense of humor. He's pretty dry and stuff. Really cool guy, but I ended up having to read a role in a play. We did like a script reading essentially, uh, like a rough presentation, and then I recorded it for him so he could take notes and stuff. We're not the actors that are going to be in the play, but it was fun and interesting anyway to play a role and do this stuff. And admittedly, like I had skimmed the script beforehand, but I hadn't actually read it all the way through, so I didn't know what I was going to say. But like finding a tone and actually being able to do that stuff, it's tough if you don't open yourself up to it. Now hold on a second, I'm going to get rid of this redundancy here. Boom, now it's gone. There, perfect. Anyway, it was fun though in its own way. I know some people are absolutely terrified of public speaking, and I don't know, there's something weird where, yeah, it's scary to get up on stage and to talk in front of people or like perform in front of people if you're doing like talent show stuff or you're a musician or whatever. But there's something so weird that happens when you're actually out there and you just accept that you're being vulnerable and you're putting your own all your vanity aside. Although it's funny, performers can be quite vain. You have to put your vanity aside and know that other people are going to be judging you in that moment, and you just ignore all that other shit. It sets you free. It's true. Detail Hive is absolutely right. So yeah, it has this weirdly freeing kind of feel. And yes, hello Mod Hatter, I did see you. And yes, singing is fun, although admittedly I usually do it in the car when nobody else is around and I'm just like, blasting something on my phone through the sound system or whatever. But to each their own. I'm curious though, have any of you guys been, or in the shower? Yeah, no, that's no joke. That is fun. Have any of you guys been in a position where, like, whether it was a talent show as a kid or something, but you were just suddenly asked, like, here's a script, figure it out. We read next weekend. And what really tripped me up was he actually had like some fans of his plays also there, and then everybody had kind of like a potluck dinner afterwards. So it was it was different. It was fun though. It was. But yeah, no, you ever just been handed a script and like figure it out, and then we'll do a reading in front of other people who are, you know, have some level of expectation. And credit where credit's due. My brother did it. He read another role, and yeah, the whole thing was fun. It was like for a Halloween kind of themed play in a way. So he had never done anything along the lines of like a horror thing. He kept like some humor in there and stuff, but it was the closest thing where he goes, I never even would have thought of doing horror, but he thought he'd give it a shot after he heard someone else who was a playwright that he respected actually mention something that they like about that. So he's just like, huh, never tried that. So it was cool. I had fun. And yes, hello, Bucky, aka Alex. Nice to see you here. And Dan, for everyone's sake, I don't sing around others. Dan, that's okay. Don't worry about it. Yeah, that's what happens every year with a gospel drama thing I help with. It kind of sucks. Oh, Luke. So, what kind of roles do they give you? Do they give you stuff where you actually have to like perform a decent amount, or do you feel like, oh, I can just disappear into the background on this one? Just curious how it works for you. Oh, Shakespeare. Oh, I think the closest I came to that was reading some Shakespeare in class. That's okay. Shakespeare, man, I know some people like it. I find it can be incredibly clunky to me. Like, I understand it's an art form, people appreciate it, whatever, but I never enjoyed the Shakespearean prose, like the way it's written and all that stuff. It drives me crazy to hear it. My brain is like trying to process, like, I know what they're trying to say, but it sounds wrong. Like, I get it. Although I will say, as a kid, I did think that Romeo plus Juliet movie with like Leonardo DiCaprio and John Leguizamo and stuff, that was actually a cool movie to my, you know, young mind. But at the same time, like, I haven't gone back and watched that movie anytime recently, so I have no idea how it's aged. I know it's a Baz Luhrmann joint, and Baz Luhrmann likes to do weird, anachronistic stuff where he'll take like a modern day setting or a historical setting and then flip it with like some modern contemporary music or something. Like he did that with Gatsby and threw Kanye in there and stuff. It was a whole thing. Anyway, we got Dan here. Luke, I posted on the TRC page about the cookies. They're good. Okay, so yes, as Dan said, he did. I wanted to take a look. Let me kick it over to my React view here. Wabam. There we go. In the TRC group, I saw some posts here. Yeah, Yoshi doing a crazy thing. Your move, Anthony Fisher. He posts a friggin' RSX with a crudely photoshopped backend. I would say it's both great and terrible at the same time. Like the angle is off. Like whoever photoshopped these was clearly kind of in a hurry. Yeah, it's a little bit of a clunky thing. Shakespeare and Frankenstein are really good challenges for someone who wants to improve their English comprehension. Boy, that'll show you. So it's basically a multi-room drama. You see backstory and then you go to heaven and hell. I'm always a demon and I have fairly minor roles, but definitely gonna mess stuff up if I mess up. Oh, and y'all, oh yeah, see? Okay, there you go. Mod Hatter makes some damn fine cookies. Listen to that. What a beautiful group. Then Detail Hive is barfing. Yeah, so what I wanted to point out was Yoshi posting these. The problem is, this is one of those cases where you know how they say, like, terrible idea but great execution? This is the opposite. This is a great idea but horrible execution. This Photoshop is abysmal. Like, I am offended that they didn't even bother trying to change the shape of the window behind the B pillar here. It just does not flow. They put on what's essentially like an early Subaru WRX wagon rear end. Not the hatch, but earlier than that, they had the wagon. And yeah, no, it's wrong. You could make a shooting break out of this. You absolutely could. But the way they did it is gross. Now, if I were to pull up the Ferrari 456. Yeah, GT Venice. Yes, okay. So this is a good example of an actual wagon made out of a car that was never meant to be a wagon. So this is one of those cases where Middle East sultan or whoever, perhaps a king, had a lot of money and went to Ferrari and said, "Hey, I like that Ferrari 456, but I want a wagon." And Ferrari, because they're extremely particular, usually would say no to almost anybody, but they did end up actually making the Venice, which is essentially a wagon version of a 456, which is kind of crazy. Let's see. We've got you need some cookies. Damn fine cookie. A lot of cookie talk going on. Also, Jamie. Hey, Jamie. I see you up there. I call for a cookie off. We bake them and send it to Dane, and he has to judge them live on here. You know what, Luke? If you guys actually did that, I would do that. I'm on a new diet trend here where I'm really cutting down on like all my carbs and stuff, but I would make an exception just for you guys to test, let's say, 5 or 6 different cookies and go head to head. And I could rank them. I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. If they're all good, I'll say so. But I would rank them in order from favorite to least favorite. And it would be a free for all. I mean, you guys could send whatever you want. Or if you feel like that's not quite workable, you could all make the same type of cookie, but with your own spin on it. Like everybody has to make a chocolate chip cookie, but their, you know, recipes could be different or something. I would say we could stand for that. You guys decide what the rules are, but I'd be open to that. So I'm going to give you guys a chance to think about how you'd want to do that. Attempt some diet friendly Mod Header, if you could find a way to make low carb, low sugar cookies that don't suck, I'm absolutely on board. That would definitely get some love from me. I would be very interested in that. And if the rest of you were down to like try that, or you're just like, screw it, I'm going the other way, I'm going the gnarliest, most sugary, whatever, okay, fine if you think it's going to work. But if you overpower it too much and it ends up being disgustingly rich, well, then, you know, maybe my palate isn't necessarily going to like that. So you judge, you decide how I judge. So you guys make up the rules and I'll find a way to follow it. But I'd be very curious to see, this cookie has cocaine as a secret ingredient. That's a horrible idea, Dan. That's a horrible, horrible idea. What a wonderful idea. I could probably talk about cookies for 2 hours. Jamie, I think you'd be quite good at it. Excuse me. Buys crumble. I mean, yeah, Detail Hive just doing that. Anyway, for those who aren't familiar, the regular Ferrari 456 just looks like this. It's literally the same from the front, and the vent is the same. The body is different. So, yeah, they essentially just made it a wagon. Anyway, perfectly pleasant looking thing. Nothing earth shattering, but I was always more partial to the 550 Maranello. I always thought that thing was a beautiful car. And I especially like, well, I mean, 550 is nice. 575 came after and kind of changed up the design a little bit, but I just think it's such a clean, good looking car. Yeah, they're pretty. Anyway, I'm getting distracted. We're going back to Facebook. Okay, so guys, Dana's lost 40 pounds and lost sleep 2 weeks ago. He's only been eating cookies. My God, if that happens, we're in trouble. Jesus. That means a lot. I'll make cookies anytime. Wow. Okay, man. You guys are, you're all so sweet. How could I be upset at that? I couldn't be. For real. Luke says, you're going to have to give me a few weeks till I can stand on my feet longer so I can make up. Luke, I want everybody to have a fair shot, but I need to have if we're going to do this, they have to be sent in around the same time, because if they're sent and they don't show up at the same time, you're going to have some that wind up a little older, they become harder, they're not as pleasant to eat anymore. That's going to affect how they taste. I think fresher cookies are going to be an advantage, and I don't want anybody to be unfairly, helped by being the last one in the freshest batch. So if we do this, we got to decide on like a timeline, how it's all going to fit together. You guys, like I said, come up with the rules. We'll figure it out, and we can roll from there. But I'll let you talk amongst yourselves and figure out how that's all going to work. Anyway, while you're all distracted with that, I'm still looking at this RSX shooting brake wagon idea and thinking, God, what a great idea, but a horrible, horrible looking Photoshop. Because that's the thing. If you're going to do this, if you're going to turn these otherwise cool little hatchback, liftback, coupes into an actual wagon or a hatchback full on or like a shooting brake, you gotta get the glass right. If you don't get the glass right, the whole thing's gonna wind up just looking like shit like this. But let's see the comments here. Hear me out. Funnel cake, but cocaine instead of powder sugar. Luke, no. Can't be doing that. That's not the right kind of weight loss routine. Unfairly helped. I'm Hank Pill. I'll sell cocaine and cocaine accessories. Anyway, what kind of comments do we have on this? Oh, geez. Yeah, okay. That's about what I expect to see. Alex, David. We got Morgan even throwing in an ew. Then I said a shooting brake design would be awesome, but the design is absolutely disgusting if you don't change the shape of the glass behind the B pillar to address the change in shape. And Anthony simply says, burn it. Dane, imagine if they made that, but the entire shooting brake portion still lifted like a hatchback. That'd be hilarious. That would just be like a gigantic clamshell where it just opens and closes. Yeah, no, I think those are interesting ideas that are probably not good in any capacity. You might want to think twice about that. Anyway, yeah, and for those who aren't familiar with what a shooting brake is, there's some debate as to what makes a shooting brake, but essentially, when you take like a sporty coupe, right, and then you change the roof line so that it no longer slopes down in the back, and you make it so it's more squared off like a wagon, there's certain limits to what you can do, but essentially the idea is to make it into... Actually, let me just show you. There's a really good example that I can use where it's a model, it's a Volvo actually, called the P1800, and they made the Volvo P1800 and then the Volvo P1800 ES. And the ES was the same car, but they turned it into a shooting brake. So when you see the difference between the coupe version and then the coupe with a hatchback version, which is the shooting brake, you'll understand, oh, has everything to do with the shape of the roof line. So, yeah, anyway, I'm just nerding out over this while you guys talk about cookies and cocaine. Apparently, this is not a cocaine cast. I'm just talking about shooting brakes. Anyway, let's talk about this. So we've got the Volvo P1800, which I believe Ivan LaCroix, if you're in my detailing crowd, you know Ivan, he had one. So the Volvo P1800 came in two different flavors. You had the coupe, which most people would be familiar with and thought, hey, that kind of looks like a slightly cheaper version of like an Aston or something from back in the day, or perhaps it's like a little MG or something. But yeah, they're very nice looking, if not a little bit dorky looking, depending on your stance on these things. But for the era, nice little cars. I think they're pretty sharp. And of course, then there's resto mod ones that look like kind of badass and crazy, and lowered, wider wheels, all that kind of stuff. Anyway, to give you the best idea, we have this here, red coupe. So look at the roof line. When you look at these fins back here, just follow the character line forward. Then you've got that little chrome strip, and it goes right up to the headlight. Basically gives you a sense of the shape of the car. So, yeah, that'll give you a rough idea there. So, yeah. Anyway, that's the P1800. Now, the P1800 ES is what is known as a shooting brake. Some people call it a coupe wagon or a wagon, but usually wagons have more doors than this. Like a Chevy Nomad is also essentially like a shooting brake. Shooting brake is when you take this, see the back? Yeah, you can see now. It is, whoa, what's going on here? Yeah. They essentially kept the fins, but then they integrate this very tall body into it, which, yeah, just carries the roof line from all the way from the A-pillar on the windshield back. So you get yourself a lot more storage capacity while still having a cool, coupe-like thing. But yeah, I mean, there's some cool different concepts of this, different people doing different things to achieve the same result. But in this case, it's pretty clear when you go from the coupe to the standard car, or rather the shooting brake. So yeah, I mean, that's the easiest way to explain it. If you look at Aston Martin Zagato, yeah, I'm way off in the weeds here. You guys just keep talking. Okay, so if we look at shooting brake, which would be The Zagato. Yeah, these are super gnarly and cool. Love them. They are badass. And a lot of people have no clue they even exist, but they are sick. So basically, if I take the shooting brake element off that and I just go, yeah, we'll call it a 2019 Vanquish. Yeah. Or rather, yeah, from the same time period. Boy, that is a small picture. Why they got to do that? See, this is already throwing off my whole conversation. Anyway, the coupe, right? You got the roof line. It's like my Jag. But then you add the shooting brake element. Suddenly the roof line, very different. But Zagato, when they do the modifications on these, yeah, pretty nuts. So I'll just show that. And yeah, we're back here again. So super badass, super cool. Not for everybody, but I'm a fan. Weird G, maybe you got to get in on this cookie creation. That's true. Coco's Creations could get in on that, so that would be a smart idea on his part. I don't know if he'd go for it. You got to ask him. Typing the Google Live on stream with search suggestions turned on, risky. You know what? Taking that risk because I know myself and I ain't doing that shit on here. Mr. Blue Falcon. Funny you say that though. Yeah, so we got that covered. But anyway, this whole thing has kind of become a mess over here. Audi owner something or other. Yeah, okay. Anyway, just thought I'd talk about that because it comes up from time to time, and I think there's a cool way to do it, and then there are just awful, awful ways to do it. Let's see. If I type in coupe shooting brake Photoshop, there's gonna be some funky ones out there. I know everybody does shooting brake versions of like cars that some work, some don't. I really don't know how I feel, for example, about this SL500. That's a little questionable looking. I think that car does function better as a coupe because it was always designed to be a convertible. And yeah, it just looks wrong. But like the clown shoe, the M coupe, down with that. Then we got the MG GT. It's a little weird. Once again, I think the roof line lends itself to that one. That one doesn't work. You know what though? When the guys do the Challenger, Challenger shooting brake, yeah. If I throw that one up here, yeah, does not look bad. I actually find it's kind of badass, and I'm not a Mopar guy by any means. I think that there's certain cool ones, but yeah, when I see this stuff, sometimes I'm like, yeah, it's funky, but it's cool. Yeah, so anyway, same era here, two-door Skyline wagon. Ooh, yes, same area. So what a lot of people do in the case of the Skyline, I mean, when they do the do you pronounce it Stagia or Stagia? Yeah, Stagia wagon, GTR swap. Yeah, there's some badass ones. Come on, do your thing. What's going on here? It just doesn't want to load. All right. Okay. So there was this wagon that, yeah, Nissan sold called the Stagia or Stagia. I'm never quite sure how to pronounce it, but yeah, no, basically stock wagon. Yeah, this is what they looked like. Oh yeah, then you got overhyped talk over here. Yeah, essentially they look like this. So from around the era of the R33 and R34, GTRs of the day, you had this is a wagon that had some of the same running gear as the Skyline underneath. So there are people out there who love doing a little bit of a face swap, at least a nose swap onto them, where you can throw a R34 GTR front end on it. Very cool, like that. Many cases, yeah, stock wagons. Although I've seen some people where they actually apparently swap in the running gear from a GTR too. I don't know how well that necessarily lines up and how much fab is needed, but I think there's at least some elements that work together nicely. I still think it's probably a ton of work. And then there's the ones I've seen out there where people did a full, yeah, this is a classic picture I see where they took the R35 and just for a show mixed it together with the Stagio wagon, which, yikes, that's intense. Definitely not for everybody. Certainly interesting. I've always been kind of lukewarm on the way the GTR looks, post R34 anyway. But yeah, friend has a Stagio wagon hatch, just the hatch. Interesting. So you're telling me they made a 2-door hatch version of this? I was not familiar with that. Is there such a thing? Am I imagining that? We just got a whole bunch of pictures of Skylines, aka the G35 Infinity era Skyline, which a lot of people are mad and would argue isn't a Skyline, even though Nissan sold them the Skylines elsewhere, because it no longer had a straight 6, and that kind of felt like, oh, but that's the Skyline-y element I like. Well, it's not for everybody. Interesting. Yeah, I typed that in. I don't know what's going on here. Huh. Okay, some of that stuff is like just Photoshop bullshit, but some of those are interesting. Like, I have never seen this one before. I've seen those. I'm familiar with that one. I'm familiar with like the old school Skylines, the R30 kind of era ones. But I'd never seen that 4-door with a hatch there. That was definitely a new one for me. Or you could be Dan and slap a B7 Audi on a Skyline. Yes, Alex, that was a question. I want to fucking ask Dan that, and I never did. I wanted to ask him about that damn profile picture because he always has that thing up there, and it always messes with my brain. Every time I see it, I look at it and I go, that's wrong. That nose does not belong on that body, and it's clearly Photoshop, but I could never narrow it down exactly which car it was, and it's small enough. I knew it was an Audi, but I couldn't necessarily determine the exact one because, let's be honest, they all kind of look similar from a particular angle from that era. The whole small, medium, large thing that Audi had been doing for a long time, and let's be honest, they're still kind of doing it. They're differentiating more, but there was a while there where they were very much using yes, I am familiar with DuckDuckGo. Anyway, or Tor or any of those. Yeah, so beyond that, that was definitely something that drove me crazy. Finally subscribed for 6 months, cookies for everyone. Wow, Luke. Jeez, dude, that's very kind. Holy crap. That's really nice, dude. Thank you. You didn't have to do that. Which, by the way, for those who aren't familiar with how this stuff works, yeah, there's essentially a, thing on the back. Let me make sure that's running okay. Okay, that looks good. Anyway, just, yeah, sorry. Brain's all over the place. Looking at a bunch of different things, figuring it out. And I've got a bunch of Skylines on my screen. But anyway, that was that. But yes, please, Dan, elaborate. What the hell is your profile picture? Explain exactly what car is drifting in that profile picture. And is it a B7 Audi on that nose? Was it a Skyline in the picture? I don't think it was a Skyline. It almost looked like a Toyota Chaser or something. I was really having a hard time. Like, if I can find like an exact picture of it or whatever, I'm pretty sure it was a Toyota Chaser. And then it had an Audi nose on it. I'll have to dig up the picture. When you find it, if you can find the exact one and you have like a URL, like an image link to it, post it here in the comments so people can see it. And then just understand, I've been looking at that thing for years and it's driven me crazy because it's just wrong looking. Because it does look like a Toyota Chaser, but with mid 2000s Audi nose grafted onto it, probably Photoshop. But yeah, no, it's always something where he like never really addressed it, and I would just see it and go, and my brain would like spend way too much energy trying to process it, and then it wouldn't work. Like, it almost looks like this picture right here, but then there's an Audi nose on it. Just drives me crazy. Yeah, no, it upsets me because it's always one of those things where like my mind is trying to piece together the puzzle and the information is not all there, especially because it's so small, it's hard to decipher. I don't recall if it's this exact picture with the nose swap. It's awfully close. So you guys tell me. Question of the day: do I put the spoiler on the back of the Scion or leave it off? Let's see. So spoiler back on the Scion. So Luke, on your Scion, you have a TC, and you took the spoiler off. What did you take the spoiler off to do with exactly? You were doing something to it. I don't know exactly. I think it's that picture with no swap. Yeah. So Dan, I just based on the coloring of this image, it is. I'm pretty sure it's close. It's very close. But yeah. So I was right then. It is the Toyota Chaser with an Audi swap. I feel better now. I can actually sleep easy. Thank you for that. Moving along here, the guy before me took it off. Oh, but he took off the spoiler, but did he give you the spoiler so that you could put it back on? Or was it a case you had to go out and get one and now you're wondering if... Oh, okay. So he took off the existing one, but he sold it to you with the spoiler, albeit separately, just so that you could have it if you wanted to put it on. Okay, got it. So why did he take it off? Do you know what the purpose behind that was? Was there a reason? Like he was going to paint it or something, or wrap it, or repair it, maybe, if it's damaged. Also, for those of you wondering, this is not a beer. This is literally sparkling juice. Think of it like an apple cider, essentially. It's just Izzy sparkling apple. We're safe. This is going back to my whole diet thing. I'm going very light on everything. Would y'all pick up the alternator for that car? Dan, I have not checked in on that front because everybody's been so busy this weekend, so I don't know. Mofo butchered this car. Oh, okay. So he was just planning on making it even worse. My concern would probably be, I know the car's beat up and you got it for super cheap, but if the spoiler came off, did he put anything in those holes where the spoiler originally just, went in there? Are there open holes on top of the rear hatch, or like what's the deal? Dan, at my house, I was just sitting at the parts store. God, Dan, yeah, that's true. I bet it is just sitting at the parts store. I'll talk to the guys about it tomorrow. We have a lot of shit we have to do tomorrow. I believe Tony from DPT is coming in, so we're going to be doing that too. But yeah, I will see to it that somebody goes to the parts store, so we're not just letting it sit there for another week, because that would be unfortunate, and we don't want to make that car sit any longer. I've said too much. I shouldn't be talking about the car, but we'll get to that later. Yep, Tony's going to be in town tomorrow. True. Yeah, push pin retainers and a metric ass load of silicone. Okay, that makes me feel a little bit better. Luke, did he put that in there, or did you put that in there when you saw it and you said, oh shit, I can't have those open, that's just waiting for rust to happen? Or he did it? Okay, so he wasn't like a total moron. He actually understood, like, I should probably do something to ensure this doesn't turn into ground zero for like car cancer. just making sure I understand the the logic here and why he did it. Now, it's the stock spoiler, or is it an aftermarket spoiler? I'm guessing it's a stock spoiler, but you tell me. The car went through its fair share of cornfields. He has stock. Okay, so it's not like a super aggressive spoiler. I remember the spoilers on those being fairly tame. I think it helped the car overall. The shape was like pretty bland, safe, whatever, but they looked a little better with the spoiler. If I were you, I'd keep it on there, or rather put it on there, since the car originally came with it. I'm curious why he took it off. Did he think it looked better without it or something, or was he planning on doing something with it? Anyway, you go ahead and answer those questions. I'm going to move on to looking around on Marketplace. What do we got here? Oh, good. They're recommending me K-Vans and K-Trucks and K-Cars. The Fiat 124 is not a K-Car, but let's take a look here. Shrink that down a little bit. There we go. Got some windows. I got an Alfa Romeo 164. Ooh. Dodge D350. Man, okay. Well, there's some fun stuff around here. He took it off because of clear complete. Oh, okay. So he was probably planning on painting it then. presumably. So what I want to do, type JDM in a marketplace and see what comes up. And then I'm going to do the same thing here on Craigslist. Okay, that's actually cool. I mean, I'm not like a huge SUV fan. I've always been more of a car guy, but I know it's a rare sight when you catch a two-door, late model OBS style Chevy Blazer from the pre-Tahoe generation, and eventually the Tahoe took its place. But yeah. No, you don't need the hijet. You're correct. I don't need it, but not needing something has never necessarily been a stop to me then getting that something when it came to cars. Just ask my coworkers; they'll be happy to tell you. But yeah, let's see here. We've got. Okay, looks like it's got some kind of cool tires on there. Not 100% on the wheels, but okay. So he's changed up the wow. Really likes taking wide angle pictures. Oh, these are all the pictures? Okay. Yeah. Just get some better straight on shots. Sprinter TRC mobile podcaster. Dude, that'd be badass. I would love doing that. I'm not sure everybody else would be into it, but man, when I'm streaming at home, you think the guy will accept 2 cents for it? No, but I was thinking maybe Tree Fitty. Luke, not needing something but buying it anyway is the reason I have 3/4 of my guns. Yeah, so Okay, clear coat's peeling, 5.74 tick, runs strong, 4x4 works great. Transmission leaks 3 gear slips. So I think he's saying it slips in 3 of the gears. I don't know why it wouldn't just slip in all the gears if it's slipping, but okay. Driver's seat torn, rest are in great shape. Well, you don't show me any pictures. You're clearly capable of taking pictures, and you have a wide-angle lens on probably your phone. But you could have taken a picture inside. That would have been helpful, other than this one very not helpful. I mean, to somebody who's looking for miles, I guess it's helpful. But other than that, Can we filter it for Emmett? Oh, Jesus. Unfortunately, I don't think I can filter it for Emmett. I can do has image, and I can do bundling duplicates, and I can do include nearby areas because that's more interesting. If we were only looking at Emmett, we would see a lot of trashy cars. Photo? No. Let's see. We got the Sprinter van here. Oh, yeah. This is at EM Motors. These guys specialize in doing converted vans and stuff. So their stuff's all going to be like this. I do love a good van, though. Oh, this one's set up almost like executive style. Okay, we got outlets. Very strange photo there. Why is this picture? Trashy cars for 350. Let's go. Oh boy. This is definitely how money. Ultra low sulfur diesel fuel only. You know, it's funny. People see these vans, and if they don't know cars, they see the Mercedes badge and they're expecting like ultra luxury when you get inside, because let's be honest, a lot of people who aren't car people have a very skewed idea of like what Mercedes and BMW are supposed to be in their head, and they look at it as like, oh my god, that guy has a BMW badge, it must have been so expensive, not realizing that this like clapped E36 in a high school parking lot is actually kind of a piece of shit. So yeah, no, people get hung up on badges and ignore all the rest, and then you get inside of it and you're like, oh it just happens. Like, you have manual adjustments on these seats. Now, what is badass is that seat spins around. I wonder if the driver's seat can. Anyway, moving along here. We got a locking center diff from the looks of it. We have a hill climb assist. We got heated seats, so not bad. But, like, for people who think that, you know, this just instantly equals luxury, you have to remember the Sprinters at their most basic are just a parcel hauling vehicle. They're meant to haul stuff. Same way as, you know, the Chevy Express or GMC Savannah or Ford Econoline is, or, you know, a Dodge Ram ProMaster if you're a weirdo. Yeah, I mean, they all exist there. But this plastic is very cheap feeling. I know from experience. What is happening on this? What is that shape in the bottom of the screen? That's a weird bevel. Okay. Anyway, I'm betting that folds out when you push the eject button. It probably folds on it. Yeah, Ford Transit too. Yeah. So that's the thing. We got a little map reading light up there. Looks like an LED. Like, these are actually nice outfitted and all that stuff. But this is a 2016, so it's not like it's old, but it's old enough that it doesn't have the most current stuff on it. Looks like it's got a nice AC unit up on the roof. And there's a picture of a cat tree with a cat for some reason. How did that wind up? Okay, tell me. I can't be the only one who, when looking through like pictures on Craigslist or even Facebook Market listings, be scrolling through and you'll just be checking out pictures, even on like an auto dealer's listing, and then there'll be one picture in there where you go, I don't think they meant to include that. There'll just be like some super random ass picture where they clearly built this listing with their phone, and it just pops up at the last minute. You're like, was this meant to help? I mean, I guess, cat lovers are going to look and go, oh, these people selling this van are cat friendly. They must be all right. And then randomly back to a picture of the van. Oh, yeah, these vans are a blast in heavy crosswinds. Alex, I know. I've driven a couple. And it looks like the driver's seat does turn around. So we got that. Look at the size of friggin' hub cover. Jesus. Yeah. So this one is a different kind of build. It's like meant to carry more people. It's not a camper per se, but it is meant to like carry a number of people. And you could totally do this podcast style with this little table in the middle. That's definitely an option, I see. Anyway, moving along from there. Got some different stuff. We got a Stang here. It's a 6-speed, so at least it's manual. Carry people. Yes, well, Mod Hatter, hopefully they're living people. Otherwise, you would get a empty panel van, in which case I'm sure you could carry many, many more people if you're, a free candy written on the side murderer or something. Firestone, it's better yet, 30-foot camper. It's like having a kite. Oh, God. Rando pics are great. Is XYZ product included? All right. You know what's fun, though? What I haven't done. Oh, that K5 Blazer is kind of cool. Just type in the word rare and see what happens. That's always a fun one. Okay. So here we got a Chevy Bel Air. It's a 57, but it's a 4-door. When it comes to Chevy 210s, Chevy Bel Airs, don't get me wrong, looks like a very nice example. But yeah, they're asking 27, whereas if this was a 2-door, you could pretty much double or triple that price. But it's 4-door, so not as many people are wild about it. Same thing goes for like Cadillacs from this era, all that kind of stuff. People are looking for like that big ass cruiser. Yes. 4 doors for more very nice ladies. Yeah, looking through my photos for the Chaser Audi is a trip down memory lane. Oh, sorry, Dan, it sent you down a rabbit hole apparently. Anyway, yeah, this would be worth a lot more if it was not a 4-door. I don't know why I'm educating everybody on this right now, but I feel like a lot of you can just inherently understand that. Okay, moving on. I have still not gotten over the front end of these new BMW M3s. It's like a face that just got the nose chopped off and you're just seeing the hole to the side. It's off-putting. Like when Audi has a big grill, it doesn't bother me because it's just a big grill. Like it doesn't really come across as nostrils, but on these new M3s, it's insane. You just see like friggin' Red Skull here from MCU. Just it's a bit of a yikes. I am so much big brain thanks to you, Dane. So big brain that my English has become poop. I'm sorry, Mod Hatter. It kind of went down the other way. But you know what? You hung in there, and I appreciate you for that. I had one hell of a fro at one point. Wow, Dan, you had a fro? Can't say I saw that, honestly. Like, you got curly hair, but like, a fro? 4 doors for Trish and her friends. Yeah, you might be onto something there. Luke, worth more. Am I hearing an angle grinder? Oh, dear. I would honestly never buy a Beamer, especially this one. Mod Hatter, there are certain Beamers I make an exception for, but they're not these. If I'm going to go back down the Google, rabbit hole again, I will show you some examples of BMWs I would like, such as the BMW 3.0 CSL. A beautiful car from back in the day. Well, beautiful is it's an interesting choice word. They had a lot going on here, but cool cars anyway from back in the day, a long time ago. The Chaser Audi is real. What the really? They actually no swapped it? Are you serious? What? Anyway, yeah. So we have the super cool Batmobile 3.0 CSL. Very cool. But you're telling me right now that Toyota Chaser with the Audi no swap is an actual thing? Because that shit's crazy. For real, okay, wow. I'm honestly shocked to hear that. Because I thought that was Photoshop. For sure, for sure. Anyway, you got a picture. Please post it in the chat. I really want people to see this thing. I don't know. I don't think there's a way to post a photo in chat, though, without it being like a URL. So, yeah. Anyway, BMW 3.0 CSL. Also a fan of the BMW 850. Yes. I am very partial to these. I think they look great. Once again, it's another BMW that looks a little less BMW than the other BMWs. Not a real phone number. Working on it. Need to pull up the URL on my phone. Okay, cool. But dang. See, to me, that is a handsome car. Also, weirdly, when you look at it, if you squint enough, you can kind of see a Mark III Supra. It's weird. If you just type in, I don't know, like 1992 Toyota Supra Turbo, and you look at it from like the front 3/4 angle, and you just kind of, this is the wrong direction, but you kind of get what I'm saying, where, yeah, if you look at it there, those wheels are war crime. Those are terrible. But, I think they're a good-looking car. Maybe it's not for everybody, but I'm partial to them. I like them. There's more than one of these. What the hell is going on, Dan? Where are you finding all this? Oh, God. Why did it have to be these wheels? So ugly. And then somebody doing a little bit of modding there. Anyway, the Mark IV Supra is the one that gets all the love because everybody loves Mark IV. But, here's the Mark IV because everybody knows the Mark IV Supra, even if they don't. The internet, Dane. That's right. Wait, Dane, how did I get your number? I legitimately can't remember you giving them to me. Interesting. I'm guessing you got it from the guys, but I'm not sure. So we'll go back because I'm showing examples of BMWs that I would buy, even though I have like zero loyalty to BMW or interest. There are certain BMWs I want. The problem is the ones I want and the ones I like are all stupid expensive. I mean, the BMW 507 is gorgeous. I don't care who you are. I think this is a absolutely badass car. Just a good looking car. But, once again, not for everybody. I like cars with some curves, usually. But I also like 80s wedge designs. So, it's very specific. It's a case-by-case basis. But yeah, that's a BMW 2 mod hatter, just in case you weren't aware. Is that really the link? That looks like the kind of link that's going to give me an insane virus. JZX100. Okay. Oh my God. It is. What? What? This is the picture. This is right. Okay, the one. So you see the top picture. Let's scroll up. Top left here. This one right here. Open images, new tab. There we go. This is basically the picture that Alkaline Taupe Hat always had as his profile picture. And it drove me crazy every time I saw it because I'm like, that's wrong. That's not right. What the hell's going on here? That is like a Toyota Chaser body, but then it's got an Audi front end. It's just wrong. And now he's telling me it's a real thing that someone has actually done, and they've done it more than once. which just, wow. Okay. The day I learned. Thank you for educating me, Dan. That was a weird one. I feel better having seen it, but I'm just like mind blown that it's not actually Photoshop and that it's a real car, because that's crazy. Can you believe that's a BMW though? I think a lot of people would have a hard time, other than the fact that the grill does the kidney thing. Alex, I have. It's so questions. Ugh, what? Says Bucky VW. Yes. Another BMW. People have probably seen the 2002. I like the 2002. It's a very simple little car, but it's very like, you can see how a modern BMW stemmed from these cars originally, or at least like your 2000s BMWs did. But yeah, once you start getting too modern, it ain't for me. But yeah, if I had a 2002, it would look exactly like this. Yes. And once again, you're noticing these are all really old, but let's go for an art car. Yes, the BMW M1 art cars are also sick. Seen a few. I believe I saw this one in person. Yeah, no, the when they had the wing on them, it's absolutely insane. But yeah. Anyway, also super cool. And moving along here. So now my stuff's not uploading. Okay, it's the car from The Incredibles. Nice. 2002 are cool. That's true. Yes, they are. I'm trying to pull up like all the examples of BMWs that I think don't suck, because some of the modern design stuff is just ugh, hate it. Now this is probably my most controversial BMW that I love, because this is an incredibly polarizing car for obvious reasons. The second you look at it, you're like, what the hell? I got to try to go to work tomorrow, so I'm going to have to leave and try to get some sleep. That's okay. Luke, you go get some sleep. Have yourself a wonderful night, and we'll catch up when you're nice and rested. So, yeah, I like the BMW M Coupe because it was essentially the internal folks working at BMW in this particular department rebelling against, well, essentially the people who are in charge, because they said, oh, the Z3, it'll just continue to be a roadster. It's just going to be a soft top. That's going to be the only way we do this. There won't be a coupe version. They just weren't happy with the rigidity of the body, so they wanted to take it. As scarred as I am from my ownership experience, I really like the E92 body style. Yes, I think the E92 body style is very nice. It will age gracefully. Lower trim models kind of look like a melted bar of soap, but once you add some like very subtle performance-y things to it, they become very nice to look at. I have no issue with the E90 body style. I like those. This is one where originally I didn't like the E60 M5, but like I can type in, E60 M5. I did not like how it looked originally because I thought it was like weird and blobby, but over time I've actually come to appreciate it more. And with some mods, I think they're pretty dope, but it's all about the engine with those. I mean, a freaking 507 horsepower V10 under the hood that screams is awesome. So, yeah, say what you will about the looks, but the power is totally there. And it was a 200 mile per hour car. I mean, Jesus. But, yeah, some reliability nightmares as well. So, more modern BMWs, yeah. Modern BMWs have not so great reliability. You go older, you just have normal old car problems for the most part. And moving along here, I'm going to close that for now. Oh, what else we got? So I typed in JDM here. Half the engine noise is the sound of the parts actively braking. Yes, and in a way that's comforting because you can tell everything that's braking as it happens. Ooh, Type S. Really? It's an 06, so it's got the way better headlights and taillights. How many miles? 234,000 miles. Oh boy. It's funny though. This is pretty much exactly what Anthony would have wanted if he didn't get his black one first. He wanted a white one, but he didn't like the white only came with the lighter colored interior. He hates this color interior, and honestly, looking at it, I can't blame him. I think this particular color interior like ages horribly. Oh yeah. Looks much better with the black interior that his black car has, but he could wrap it white. It would be cool. This one's pretty chewed up, though. I'm not gonna lie. Headlights are a little. Oh, and these wheels. Yeah, it's definitely seen better days. So, moving along here. Anyway, just saw that, thought it was interesting for the price. I mean, sub $8,000. That's, that's in the neighborhood, but that's a lot of miles too, and that's why you're seeing it so cheap. Now this one, what's the over under here? What do we want to bet that this yellow S2000 has a salvage title? I feel like the only Honda S2000s I can find under like 17, 18,000 now are pretty much exclusively salvage title cars, or they have such high miles that they, I'm not scared of high miles, and this one has 150. That's not scary to me at all. I think 150 is totally workable, especially on a Honda from this era. However, is it gonna be a salvage clean title? Are you kidding me? What? Runs, drives great. Being sold by a dealer. It's being sold by a dealer. This Aaron Seth fellow doesn't exactly have high ratings either. What's going on there, bud? Interesting. So, I mean, this one's clearly been lowered. Yeah. I mean, it doesn't look bad, but it definitely looks like it's had some shit done to it that you probably can't see. Looks like curb stoning to me. Yeah. I feel like the problem with this car are the things that you can't see. There's probably some issues going on under the hood. The nice part about S2Ks though is that in terms of the cockpit and everything, what you get is what you get. They didn't really change much. So even AP1 to AP2, they didn't change all that much. When a dealer sells a car posing as a private seller, yes, you see that where you are too, right? It's not just a local thing. I feel like I see that a lot. And yes, Dan, that is also illegal, I believe. Looks like he's a different kind of dealer per the photos. Yeah. You see the cars in the driveway and you start to kind of go, oh, I know. I've seen houses with cars like that in the driveway. Usually it's like some kind of clapped out German or like British luxury car that they got for ultra cheap, and it kind of becomes drug dealer spec. It's super common in San Antonio, less in Alaska. Okay. I think it has to do with like how populated the area is too. Pillar gauge is lowered in passenger side gauge. The passenger side gauge sent me. I wasn't sure what was going on there. That was just kind of strange. Yeah, what is that doing over there? Like, what benefit is there to having this long ass cylinder, presumably with a gauge or something on the other end of it? Is that his like air fuel? And he's just got it way over there, and you got to read it from clear over here? Because it seems like AFR would be something you'd want to have up in your A pillar or something. Any Firebirds out there? Oh, Mod Hatter, you like Firebirds? We can definitely look up Firebirds. Or just sussy Hondas. Yes, there's definitely that. Oh, you know what? This makes me happy. An Eagle Talon. Specifically, I mean, you might look at that and say, that's a Mitsubishi Eclipse. Well, yes and no, because it shares the architecture with the Eclipse, but Eagle, which is a company that no longer exists, but basically got folded into more Mopar stuff, Dodge, etc. Yeah, Danger to Manifold. These ones are cool because the spoiler is like up on the rear glass. There's always kind of a funky style spoiler, but I was always kind of partial to these. I thought they looked cool, especially I like the two-tone here. The red-black deal looks cool. But yeah, not for everybody. I always thought the Eagle badge in the middle was a little funky looking, but it was their, way of differentiating because not much else was. I'm waiting for somebody to yell crank walk, which nobody said yet, so good for you. The interior, oh yeah, look at those seats. Yeah, now we're talking. 13 grand, I mean, it's all-wheel drive, it's got the stuff. Currently, you can't buy a car here for less than 4K without a salvage title, major issues, and or body damage. Kind of like our dating scene. Ooh, yeah, that's a winner right there. So yeah, the Talon caught my eye. Also, we got ourselves this little fella. This looks nice. Yeah, who doesn't love an MR2? Why do I feel like this is almost the same guy's? Oh, it's in Cuna. Okay, so you know all the shit they talk about Emmett? Cuna is kind of like that, but also yeah, there's some like sketchy car dealers there too. Ones who like to pick out cars that would attract somebody and of a certain mindset. Say like somebody who's into JDM cars especially. They get a lot of these, but you'll hear a lot of people talk and say they're clapped. So I'm not speaking out of turn when I say like, okay, buyer beware. Looking at that, it's being sold by. I don't recognize the name. Maybe it's not them. Emmett, the dollar store Emmett. I mean, when you drive into a town and the first thing you see is either an Arctic Circle or Dollar General before anything else, at least around here, that's kind of your clue. You're like, oh, gonna be a town like this. And there's nothing wrong with going into a town like that. It's just you change your expectations when you drive into a town like that, knowing, okay, this is gonna be the setting for today. We understand this. We all get how this works now. All right. Oh, hey, Ukadalo, nice to see you there. Hello. Welcome to the show. And I'm gonna go ahead and piece out of this one. I'll pull up a Firebird. Whoa, okay, somebody got a little crazy with this 350Z. X-Type wagon for sale in my neighborhood. So tempted. Ukadalo, X-Type wagons, man, X-Types are kind of like around here, but the wagons, I always thought the wagons were actually a pretty handsome little car. I mean, essentially, it's just a Mondeo underneath, right? Like a Ford Mondeo. Man, this guy's got a lot going on here. Oh no, he's got a Crown Royal shifter. Ah, ride or die. Oh, he's got the requisite stickers in the fire. Oh boy. Oh yeah, a little stretch on the tires. Just weird enough to be interesting. Yeah, no, Okadali, you're not wrong. And underneath, it's not like it's a horribly unreliable car, but it's just one of those ones where like it depends on what you're wanting to get out of it. I think for a daily driver kind of situation, it's probably not bad actually, and parts are fairly available other than like trim pieces and stuff, which may be a little harder to find. Emmett, home of the Jeep Cherokee bidding wars. That's right, Alex. Dan, I mean, we did have 2 Russians sail over as refugees. Yeah, this one, I mean, he's got a deck lid ducktail spoiler in addition to a high wing, which always works better on cars that don't have roof, I've found. So that's good. That's helpful. We have a purple CRX looking 10 grand. Oh my God. What happened to CRXs? Rust free. That's a big selling point. Ooh. Okay, so he's got a little something going on here. He's got a LSD. So it looks like it's got a Integra swap into it. Built B16 turbo, GSR limited slip diff, hydro transmission, action disc, twin clutch. Okay. It's got Hyundai to. Yeah. All right. So interesting. Carbon fiber center console. For weight reduction. Oh. Let's just say this one is a little more function over form. Seems like a fair assessment. Oh, that's interesting looking. Okay, moving along. I hope I'm not boring everybody by just digging through these, but like I'm fascinated by what you see out here, so I hope you all are as interested in this as I am. If you're not, we can move on to some other video stuff I was interested in getting to. Oh, somebody lifted a Forester. That is a pretty common thing around here, I'm not going to lie. It's definitely something that we catch. What I'm just interested in is like surfing through this stuff and then seeing the prices on it. Everything has been pretty inflated ever since, obviously COVID, the big C. But because once you're in Emmett, you can't leave. Gives me ideas on what I can get for around 35 cents. Well, that's good, Mod Hatter. I'm glad we can help you out. So actually, Mod Hatter, in the interest of helping you specifically, are there certain things that you are looking for in a car that I can help narrow it down? Like, is there something? Oh, NSX. There we go. Yes. What just happened? Oh, Back to Bare Bones has followed. Thank you, sir and or madam. Welcome to the show. I never get mad seeing an NSX. They're always so pretty. 70 minutes into the stream and not one video finished. Well, Dan, usually it's because we're chatting up a storm, but in this case, okay, the modifications on this one aren't atrocious. I like the color. He's interested in trading for an R35 or a Super Mark IV. The 94. It doesn't specify that it's a Targa, so it needs more Tatra V8. Also, that barbecue the other night was awesome. Hey, I don't want to out you by your name. I know your name, but I didn't want to out you because I already out everybody else. But yeah, no, I'm so glad you had fun. That was really fun having dinner with you guys the other night. Glad we got to all chat and hang out. And yeah, welcome to the stream. So thank you for following along. I really appreciate that. And not too picky, to be honest. Okay, Mod Hatter. So what's your criteria? Like, for real, what price range are we talking about here? Like, realistically, if you were to look, what's a realistic price range that you're looking at? So I'm doing some hypothetical, like, car buying advice on the fly. Oh, well, thanks for popping on here. I appreciate it. And I know it's a little late for some people, but hopefully this is just a fun way to spend an evening when, nothing else is going on. Buy my Scoobroo then. Oh, dear. Don't buy Dan's Subaru. It is very bare bones. I mean, like, ultra bare bones, which is great for a beater, but it's got some quirks. Nothing more than 15,000. Oh, got my orange to pay for it. Mod Hatter, if 15 grand is your limit, that leaves you with a lot of possibilities. I definitely did not have that much to spend on my first car. I got my first car for $6,200, which even then, like, depending on who's out there, like, it's, it was a decent amount, because there's some people out there who are looking for like sub 2,000, 1,000, and with very few exceptions, that just does not happen anymore. I will go into debt for my beater. No joke. Mod Hatter, I love your enthusiasm, and I can vibe with that. I totally get that. Triple manual, baby. Manual windows, manual locks, manual transmission. And it comes with the driver's manual. So actually, that's a quad manual. Or it doesn't come with a driver's manual. Doors unlock when you shut the doors. Oh, that's an interesting quirk, all right. So yeah, this NSX, even though it has 140,000 miles on it, not really an option at 68,500. So we're gonna have to look elsewhere. Now, I think I appreciate what this guy's trying to do here. The thought crossed my mind when I was a high schooler too, to get a Subaru Impreza 2.5 RS and do some Rally E stuff with it. Not the most original idea, but yeah. Now, after all these years, I do have a respectable fear of head gaskets, but it is what it is. Painted pink, okay. Need to sell it to someone named Manuel. Now, oh my god, that's a great idea, Bare Bones. Not in San Antonio anymore. Yeah, you're gonna have to. Wow, that's a very specific joke there. Oh my god, is it an RT4? And if you don't know what I'm talking about, don't worry, it's just me being a dork again. It is not. Okay. So, if this was a Honda Civic RT4 wagon, it would have somewhat primitive four-wheel drive. So if I type in Civic RT4, you'll see these little guys, and they're pretty dope. Pretty cool little guys, but definitely not for everybody. As far as beaters go, though, man, you got the reliability. People like to do them up a little. They're fun little things. Yeah, fair head gaskets, you say. That's a rare spec car. Yeah, but like, I've always been on the lookout for these because I think they are cool. When we're talking Honda Civics and stuff, I'm more interested in like CRXs and RT4s and stuff than I am in just another typical SI dressed to look like a Type R or something. So yeah, or an EX dressed to look like an SI, which is somehow sadder to me. I drive this little dude. No, they're adorable, but they're just a cool little car. Not for everybody though. So Mod Hatter, how important is cargo volume to you? Is that something you're worried about, or are you just kind of whatever? Like, as long as you can haul yourself and maybe a friend, you're good? Or is it something where you want to be able to like haul stuff if you move from one place to another? Because now I'm thinking like 15 grand opens a lot of options, although in fairness, everything's inflated to a degree, but there's still a lot of great options for that. But yeah, like realistically, I know you're not picky, but what are your needs in a car? We're calling it a beater, but like, would you treat this as a daily driver? No. And if you do you care more about function? Like you're looking for something that's fun to drive, maybe a little performancy, not too worried about space, just needed to get me to work and back. Okay. Oh my God, importing a Lada. So for those who don't know, let's type in Lada Niva because that's a fun one. Yes. You want to talk about a little 4x4 guy? This'll do it. Yeah. So, sometimes when you're watching like a Born Identity movie and they're in Russia and you see these little cars and you're like, what is that? That looks funky, but also kind of tough at the same time. Lada Niva. Yeah. Kind of badass, but also, Soviet era engineering, which means a lot of things. There's definitely some funkiness going on. Instigation intensifies. Yes, Ukadala. Yes, I'm very familiar. Now, granted, over here in the States, I promise you, most people have never heard of a Lada. They've never seen a Lada unless they watched like a spy movie that takes place in another country or something. But there ain't no Ladas here in the States unless some psychopath imported one and just thought it was funny to drive around in their local hills or whatever. But yeah, this is much more modern style one. But yeah, they all more or less look like this. Okay. I'd love to. Oh, Miatas are always the answer. It's true. You want speed? You want speed? Okay, wrap. So here's another one. I mean, so do you care about the number of doors at all? Okay, or Fiat Panda 4x4. Also true. That's another car, unfortunately, Ukadala, that we do not get. Although I know people absolutely love the Panda, and it's a great little car. We do not get those here. Although I always thought they're just a cute little thing, Just a silly little hatchback with a little lift, and yeah, no, it's cute. I think some people who could help. Also, I don't care about doors. Okay, so having fewer doors is not necessarily a problem. That opens you up to some fun. There used to be someone at Autocross here in San Antonio that had an old Yugo hatchback. I thought it was a GTI at first, but the gas cap was in the wrong spot. Ah, clues. You know what? You mentioned a GTI. That's actually kind of a dope idea. I think that would be kind of a two birds, one stone thing, even though she doesn't necessarily care about function over form. For the money, I mean, there's some options there. I bet we could find some dope little. Okay, this one's just like a personal thing. If I had that kind of money to spend on a car that I could only have one car and like do a lot of stuff with, there's some badass options, but I'm thinking like a Golf R32. Now, granted, you're going to have some reliability issues with the older ones, but not necessarily the worst thing. And they're actually pretty reliable, assuming you take care of the right stuff. It's not a total, home run, but it's a cool little car that does a lot, and it's all-wheel drive, and it's quick. I won't say it's fast because, like, my Jag is fast, but quick is fair. So, yeah, I mean, when you're talking about between 200 and 300 horsepower in a small car, that's fun. And yeah, no, bare bones. That's exactly why I'm recommending the R32 and not the Golf R, which is much more current and much more money, but it's a 4-cylinder turbo. It's just not as cool sounding by any means. It's a Volkswagen. Their check engine lights double as turn signals. That's right, Dan. And I'm sure Alex won't have anything to say about that at all. Anyway, I happen to really like blue R32s. So yeah, I like the Mark V's where they have the little silver on the front. It's Audi-esque. Or you get the Mark IV where it's a little more a little boxy guy. But they sound so cool. The VR6 sound is absolutely the star of the show. And yeah, so basically here is an R32. It comes with what's called a VR6, which is kind of like a weird blend between an inline engine and a V type engine, which, if you're not familiar, it just has to do with if it's inline, all the cylinders are in a single row, or if it's a V type, then you have that number of cylinders, whatever the number is, and then it's oriented in a V pattern so that you have multiple banks. So in the case of a V6, you have 3 cylinders on this side, 3 cylinders on that side, and functionally, it's the length of an inline 3 because each bank is only 3 cylinders long. And that's how you get 6 cylinders into a tight space. Is a V6 is a very popular option because of how it fits into the space. That's why, like, for the longest time in the 2000s, the 90s, like all of the things when they had like an option, the 4-cylinder in the base model, and they have a V6 for the higher trim because it was still easy to fit in there. So it's only 15 degree on the VR6. And that's what I was going to get to, Ukadalo, was the fact that on the VR6, it was Volkswagen's kind of compromise to have sort of a singular, it's like in a row. So let me show you a picture so you understand. It was basically like having an inline, but the cylinders are kind of like, and they're just really close together. So when you look at okay, we'll do just not V8 log. We'll do inline 4. Okay. So we're going to try, I'm really going to try not to go down the rabbit hole here, but just bear with. So, you know, you open the hood, and underneath all that engine cover shit, you'll have yourself an inline 4-cylinder. It's going to look something like this. It'll differ from car to car, but mostly it's going to look like, you know, like this. Find a better example. Anyway. Okay, so those circles up there, those are your, you know, your spaces where the cylinder is going to go. That is the cylinder. Then you have your pistons inside the cylinder, and that's where the little explosions happen. So basically, this is an inline 4. There are 4 cylinders in a row. Now, when you go to an inline 6, it's the same deal, except now you have 6 of them. And that is a popular configuration that pretty much is BMW's bread and butter. Like, they make so many inline 6s. So many. So basically, once again, just all in a row. They're in line. And when you start going above 4 cylinders in line, you start having to have a little more space, you know, fore and aft if you're going to make it longitudinal, which is one of the cylinders is towards the front of the car and the last cylinder in the row is towards the back of the car. That's longitudinal. It's going lengthwise in the car, or in the engine bay for that matter. Now, sometimes they'll turn it and it'll become what's called transverse. And when an engine is transverse inside of the engine bay, it's a way that they can fit a long engine into a shorter hood. So the idea then is, yeah, I have a sickness for the thickness of the straight sixness. Yeah, no, I feel you, man. I feel you. So in the case of inline 6s, sometimes, usually meant for longitudinal design, but when you do an inline 4 and they mount it transversely, you can get a very short nose, so you can get like the Honda Element or something. So yeah, straight 6 smoothness. The big appeal of the straight 6 cylinder configuration is that it is naturally balanced. There's just a functionally, it's a very smooth engine because it's designed in such a way that, you know, the way the cylinders fire, it keeps it very nice and not fussy. Like, it's very smooth. It's all about that smooth power. And you probably heard of like a V12. Well, that's just having like 2 inline 6s in a V. Here's 6, here's 6. They're 6 cylinders long, but there's 2 banks of them. You got 12. So that's a V12. So anyway, I'll show you the actual V layout so that you understand that. So in this case, we'll do a V6 block engine layout. Now you see, here is a V6 engine layout. And the part to understand about it is you have 2 banks. So you have 3 cylinders over here, 3 cylinders over here. And for packaging reasons, this fits very nicely into a lot of different vehicles because most of them aren't designed to be too long. and the width is negligible. I mean, it's not that different from what an inline four would be dealing with. So, yeah, that's why you see so many cars with V6s from a certain time period. Now, as we get to the more modern day, turbo inline four or inline fours have replaced a lot of V6s because they can make similar power and get better fuel economy in the process in many cases, as long as you stay out of boost. I'm getting distracted, but you understand. Dodge and Mazda have released new straight sixes, and I'm here for it. Yes, between the Hurricane and that new one that Mazda came out with, I was very excited when they were going to make a new Mazda 6 with the inline 6. It was going to be rear-wheel drive and all that stuff, and then they dropped it, which is a bummer. So I'm not quite sure what's going to happen with that. But anyway, V6. 3 cylinders on one bank, 3 cylinders on another bank. Boom, that's your V6. Now the VR6 gets interesting because it kind of does the inline 4 combined with a V6, and it's all covered. Oh, here we go. Perfect. This is a very nice layout here. Okay, let's pull up the picture, please. Okay, this is kind of janky, but this will help you understand. So, obviously, the one on the left is your inline 4 cylinder. Then, in the middle, you have a V6, because you have 2 different banks that are separated in the middle. It's a V, but we're just looking at it overhead right now. The VR6 does something interesting because it actually takes those 2 banks of 3 cylinders and it gets them super close together, super narrow angle, so that it is no longer really a V other than they're slightly offset. So the whole idea, I know, I'm sorry, Mod Hatter, I don't mean to hurt your head. I'm just explaining the basic layout. It gets so much more complicated than this, but I'm just trying to give you like high level Cliff's notes because I know you're learning here. So I just want to make sure you get a chance to understand a little bit of that. But yeah, Volkswagen had fun with this idea, and then they got really crazy, and Ukudalo is correct. They then took that VR6 and they expanded it to create a W12 and a W16. And the W was essentially when they take the VR6 and they put another VR6 next to it, and now instead of 6 cylinders, you have 12. So in that small space, you manage to package a stupid, huge 12-cylinder engine, but it's not really a V because the way they're oriented, they call it a W because that's the only way to make sense of how they're zigzaggy. So yeah, I'm getting way off base. The important thing is what it sounds like, right? And yeah, so you're familiar. I mean, even if you know nothing about cars, at this day and age, most people have heard of Bugatti. The modern Bugattis, like the Veyron, the Chiron, stuff like that. Volkswagen is in charge of the development on those because Volkswagen is tied to Porsche, Lamborghini, Bugatti, all those guys. So Audi, all of those. And that is the example of the only modern 16-cylinder in production outside of like some very, very low volume hypercar stuff, which the Bugatti is also. But that's a Volkswagen design engine because it's taking the VR6 essentially and then doing 16 cylinders because it packages so well. You could just keep jamming this stuff together. And then on top of that, they throw 4 turbochargers. It's nuts. Absolutely crazy. But yeah, generates a lot of heat. Anyway, I'm way off base. I was just trying to explain the VR6 engine. So VR6 is what went into these cars. The R32 Volkswagen Golf. They had 2 flavors of R32. You have the Mark IV, which is more like 2004, the year 2004, or you got the Mark V, which they made for, a couple of years after that. But then all of the stuff that happened after these, they went to a turbo 4-cylinder instead and something called the Volkswagen Golf R. In my opinion, while the Golf R is a great car, it does not have the same, let's just say, character that the VR6 powered R32 has. So if we're just talking in a perfectly hypothetical, I want to spend 15 grand on a car, like you can find an R32 for around the price or less, then that's a really fun car. It's a good car. The Golf R is great too, but it just doesn't have the same character. I want to listen to a video one though, so let's Oh yeah, there we go. Let me unmute and we'll listen.
It feels like it's made for windy country roads. You can just put your window down, listen to the VR6 warbling away, and just move through the gears seamlessly. It's just an excellent car.
Basically, what you need to know, Mod Hatter, is that the VR6 kind of growls like a Wookiee, and that's awesome. And it's naturally aspirated, so that means there's no turbocharger, there's no supercharger, it's just the cylinders doing their thing. Dino, that's cool.
In this week's episode of Future Classics, we're going to take a look at the Mark V Volkswagen R32 Golf.
And if nothing else, I think they're handsome little cars. I think they look good, the styling is nice, and it's aging well.
In 1976, when Volkswagen created the Mark I Golf GTI, little did they know that they had created an icon for hatchbacks. It would redefine the category of fast and practical cars. Fast forward to the early 2000s, and after 6 years of production of the Mark IV Golf, the engineers at Wolfsburg decided, do you know what? The GTI is just not going to cut it anymore. In 2002, in came the mighty V6-powered Mark IV R32. And this was a revelation for Volkswagen. And it set the trend for a whole new lineage of performance cars that we know as the R-Line today. The Mark IV proved to be hugely popular, but short-lived. In just 3 years from its conception, in 2005, in came the Mark V R32.
Like, I really like the styling on the Mark IV, but I think the Mark V originally looked like, it's a little bubbly looking. I preferred the Mark 6 and 7 styling, but I think the Mark V will still age well, especially at the R32
This time it was
design.
pushing out 247 brake with 236 foot-pounds of torque. It was offered with a 6-speed manual, or you could get the...
Main thing you need to know, though, Mod Hatter, is that this is a little car that works in all climates, all, settings. It's nice to be in. The materials are actually nice in the interior. It's well put together. And yeah, Volkswagens from the era sometimes have their little electrical issues and stuff like that. But there's such a massive community for Golf owners and stuff. You really can feel pretty good about it. Like, there's other people out there who've almost definitely experienced the same problem as you if you ever run into something. So it becomes a lot more safe in a sense. But for your taste, you might find that it's a pretty badass little car that actually works in snow, in summer climate, whatever you want. Just change the tires to what makes sense and go with that.
DSG box. Now, what we've got to remember here is the DSG was actually a pioneering movement by Volkswagen. It was the first time ever in production that there was an automatic dual-clutch transmission in a car. It really was a big deal in the day.
Yeah, and there's a VR6 top to... It says V6 on the top, but
Although this little 6-cylinder was actually limited to 155 miles an hour, it was fast. It could do 0 to 60 in just over 6 seconds. A huge factor in being able to put this power down on the road was the fact
plus the center exhaust looks badass.
that it carried over the 4-wheel drive Haldex system from the Mark IV. And this allowed for the power to be distributed to where it was needed best. It could mean that you were driving a 4-wheel drive, but in extreme conditions, you could push it to a 2-wheel drive. And it hugely made for a confidence-inspiring drive. Although the Mark V carried over the same drivetrain from the Mark IV, it had a total redesign. As you can see from the front end, it had the new aluminium apron and then the upgraded xenon lights. And at the back, it now featured a central twin exhaust. But there were a few features which did also stay the same. 18-inch wheels, color-coded blue calipers here, and round to the rear, this C-pillar is so centrally Golf. This can be seen in the lineage right up to this day. For me personally, I knew when I saw the deep blue pearl paint job, I was looking at an R32, and it became unmistakable and really set apart the car from its competitors in the market.
It's the color that lets you know it's not just some other Golf, unless somebody wrapped it that color. Yeah, the R32s, as far as I recall, this particular blue on them was an exclusive color to it, so you know you got an R32 when you got that color.
At the time.
So that's the thing, Mod Hatter. As far as being scared of German cars, you oftentimes should be scared of old Mercedes or old BMWs with certain exceptions. Most of the stuff in this day and age, somebody out there has done it and can like show you a walkthrough on YouTube. But the beauty of the Golf is that it is, for all intents and purposes, the Honda Civic elsewhere in the world. Like Honda Civics are incredibly popular here as just like a regular small economical car, but elsewhere in the world, the Volkswagen Golf is the king at that stuff. So there's so many people out there who own them. Even if you get a higher trim special model like the R32, you're still in a camp that has a lot of experience and people can actually work on the stuff. It's not beyond most people's capacity, and it's not outlandishly priced stuff either. Like the parts and things, it's Volkswagen. It's there. A lot of the parts are very common. And hello, Ethan Blank. Nice to see you here.
Hi, I'm Tony, and this is my Mark V R32 Golf. I bought the Mark V because I had a Mark III VR6 before, and I've had Volkswagens for 10, 15 years. I started off with a Corrado,
Man after my own heart, Corrado.
Ever owned.
It's funny, when I originally got my SVX, one of the other cars I was looking at was a VR6 Corrado from around the same era.
And then I just progressed onto a Mark III VR6. I think it was the engine sound that really attracted me to the car. So I ended up buying that probably about 10 years ago. And then I just kind of like moved up as you do in the car scene. And I just wanted a Mark V R32. As soon as you sit in it, the comfortability, the drivability of it, the handling, as soon as you put your window down, the sound is amazing. It's a very torquey engine. It's got 257 brake horsepower with 236 foot-pounds. And
it's enough to move you around, but it feels special.
Well. As soon as you just put your foot down, it just flies.
It's not the fastest thing in a straight line, but the sound it makes is super addictive. Like, it's fun. So that's why I'm kind of like subtly talking you into this, Mod Hatter, is because, I mean, for 15 grand, there's some examples out there you could probably find. I'm curious to take a look here and just see if there's anything here in the general area. This reminded me of the old Volkswagen podcast episode with Jason Kubica. Yeah, I know he did that too. Oh, I can't get over that face. It's just like, this is all I see when I see that M3 freaking Red Skull. It's just this freaking guy, but as a just anyway, there kind of want to make sure I can put my 12-inch sub into it and I can force to be reckoned with. You know what? You could. You very, very much could. Every Volkswagen especially, you could drive it for 30,000 miles and everything will be okay. And the next 10,000, you'll put $4,000 to $5,000 into it. Oh, you absolutely can. Step away, signing off for the night. Mark V R32s are so good. Agreed, Alex. Imagine Camisa and Dane on the same podcast. 10 out of 10 would pay money. Dude, I would love that. Love that. Absolutely love that. Now, you could talk me under the table in terms of like technical know-how when it came to like suspension tuning and all the very technical stuff under the hood kinds of things like wrenching or kind of stuff. But when it comes to just general broad car knowledge and like knowing things that exist and weird, obscure brands, models, etc., I could hang. I know I could hang on that front. So that would be a lot of fun. All right. Have a great night. Hope things are well, and I'll catch you later. Also, oh my God, 104,000. Jesus. Whew. M3's got a little bit pricey. Okay, let's see here. Might have to look into it. Thanks, guys. I really appreciate it. Oh, that's nice. And yeah, no, have a great night. And let's see here. I'm going to look for R32. Does anything come up? Literally nothing. Usually when you type R32 into a car, search engine or something, it's going to pull up a Skyline. But in this case, no such thing. Interesting. If I remove all of those little reset, I just type R32 into that. No, but somebody did a TDI Sport Wagon. TDI Sport Wagon. That's a 2011. Okay. It's a little chewed up from the winter, I'm gathering. Huh. Uh-huh. Got the nice big panoramic sunroof. This thing has definitely been used, so you can see how much dirt and shit is there. Wouldn't you want to clean your car before you take the pictures? Just a thought. The lights are aftermarket HIDs. They throw a check light code, but function great. Yeah, that's definitely why your Volkswagen has a check engine light. Yeah. Anyway, let's see. So, not having much luck there. Facebook Marketplace. If I type in type in Golf R32, what do I get? Oh, look at this in Boise, Idaho, 11 grand. And it's a Mark V R32. Well, hello there. Okay, we got a Golf R hatchback over here. Ooh, 23 grand. Yeah, those end up being a little more. Hung Rhino, welcome to the show. Survey says that's a lie. Yeah, so if you're looking more modern, getting a GTI is a great way to go. It's just, I love the R32 because of the character of the engine. So it really does a lot. I'm parting ways with my Mark V Golf R32. It's been an excellent, super fun daily driver for the past 4 years and has never given me any real trouble. I like how he's honest, though. Never give me any trouble, it's any real trouble. Because, yeah, you may have like a weird light come on or something, but then oftentimes it'll work itself out. You think you'll take $25. Car's been daily driven all its life and shows some minor wear and tear accordingly. Overall, it presents cleanly. I'd rate the interior and exterior as an 8 out of 10. The only real body damage is above the driver's side door, where I'm told the previous owner over-tightened a roof rack mount. Oh, okay. Engine runs flawlessly. It does have an AFE intake, and MagnaFlow exhaust, which both really bring out the unique sound of the engine. I like those things. Transmission shifts smoothly and quick. Makes this car a lot of fun to drive. I would trust this car to drive me across the country tomorrow. No engine lights, brand new battery, all maintenance has been kept up. I'm a mechanic and the previous owner was a Volkswagen tech. Car will come with an extra set of original R32 wheels and winter tires with great life. This is actually a deal for 11 grand. That's not bad. Pretty great, actually. Looks solid, honestly. Not enough pictures for my liking, but definitely step in the right direction. Yeah, Mod Hatter, maybe you should start tonight. I'm off to bed. Have a great night. Have a great night, Bare Bones. You take care out there now. Oh, boy. Good night, chat. Man, you guys are so nice to each other. I'm not hating this listing, right, Dan? I mean, this seems, and it's white, so it's like, it's a very simple color, but you could wrap this any color you wanted. I mean, Mod Hatter, no joke. If you wanted to make a bright frickin' pink, I mean, at least pick an attractive shade of pink. But no, this guy seems to have. Oh, okay, I see now. You can see the pinch up there. That's something that that's something that Anthony's dent guy could get out. No, it has to be obnoxious. Okay, so I mean, if you wanted to be the most obnoxious and make it look absolutely atrocious, you could go with like a matte pink, which would look terrible and awful. But you could also go with a chrome pink. Oh my god. Chrome pink wrap. Is that a thing? I bet it's a thing. Oh boy, here we go. Yeah, okay. See, this is that matte finish. Oh god, it's hideous. It's so ugly. It's so ugly. It's so ugly. Now that's more of a metallic glossy finish. Yeah, I know you're loving that, Mod. I know. Looking like Pepto-Bismol, that's right. Oh god, you want to see like a couple of different horrible financial decisions there. Here's a Maserati Quattroporte with a pink chrome wrap on it. Jesus Christ. Oil change is so important on those DSG. If you could find someone with those flushing machines, Dino, we have some local shops that specialize in Volkswagen and stuff, so I think that's doable. Just get it Starna gloss wrapped like car like driver. Oh man, that is so intense. Wow, that is another kind of just whoa, whoa. Yeah, so that is a lot. It's a lot. But I'm just showing you it can be done, Mod Hatter. It can be done. Honestly, that shade of pink right there looks dope. This is the Golf R though. This replaced the R32 when they decided to drop the VR6 and just went for a Turbo 4. In my opinion, the styling of it, I really like the styling of these. I'm just not as wild about the engine. It's not as cool or fun as the VR6 is. You just lose all the sound. Add blue lightning strike. Oh my sweet baby Jesus. What you doing that for? Yikes. Also, I realized at this point, oh my gosh, I haven't run the ad break. I'm sorry. So if you're not subscribed right now and you don't want to see ads, of course, you're welcome to subscribe. Or if you have Amazon Prime, you can just use Prime to do your free sub to any channel you like, and maybe it's this one and you just want to throw it out there. That's free on your behalf as long as you have Amazon Prime. It's just like a free gimme. You can use it on anybody you like each month. But I will be running an ad break, so just a heads up to y'all. And yeah, let's continue. Hope you know I'm not serious. No, I know, Mod Hatter, I know. But looking at this pink, I think this pink looks dope. This one right here looks cool on this particular one. But that's it. Vinyl wrap job is going to cause epilepsy. Yeah, no, it's... yeah. Let's see. Vinyl wrap... I mean... There's some options out there. I mean, this guy did purple. Although it could be the blue with just a whole lot of weird tweaking done in Photoshop. No, that looks real. Okay, I guess it is real. There are options. But yeah, no, purple is boring. All right, I feel you. Oh, Mod Hatter. I am about to blow your mind. Are you ready? So, for people who are not aware, there was such a thing as the Harlequin Golf. And yeah, I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with it if you're familiar with European cars and that kind of stuff. But for Mod Hatter, she's learning here. So this is kind of like a little bit of an education. Each panel was essentially a different color with some exceptions, but they actually came this way from the factory, straight from the factory. And there's hilarious anecdotes about at the time when they were coming out, dealers were like, what the fuck is wrong with this car? And they would actually change the body panels back so that they matched. And they thought they were just receiving like defective cars, not understanding that the Harlequin was like a special edition they were selling. So there have been cases where Harlequins literally didn't even make it past the dealer before they were non-original. So that's fun. But yeah, just in case you didn't know, Volkswagen at one time did do something called the Harlequin Golf, where it came in all the fun colors all at once. So that's cool. Anyway, moving back, I'll continue this video because we want to listen to some R32 VR6 noises. Yes.
I've owned this car for 3 years, and I don't really drive the car very much at all, but when I do, when I get in the car, I do drive it hard. It's such a great car to drive. I think the Mark V is a modern classic. The prices are very high with the cars. The V6 engine, I just think there's nothing out there anymore, naturally aspirated V6, and I don't think that will ever come again.
Oh, we're going hard now. Yeah, brother.
The hot hatch category is arguably one of the most fun that's
Corrados with the USA spec front end are like hot thing right now in the EU. You can't find them anywhere now. Interesting. So Corrados, they are so unloved here in the States. There's a community for Corrados here in the States, but they are pretty under the radar. Like, as many people seem to know about the existence of the Subaru SVX as know about the existence of the Corrado. I think more people around here are actually familiar with the Scirocco versus the Corrado, which was just the predecessor, essentially. But in Europe, they were around much longer, obviously, because, Volkswagen.
It's available on the market today, and personally, one of my absolute favorites. You get a fast car, which is practical. It's something that you can use every day, enjoy at the weekends, and still get all your mates and your mum in the back. The Mark V Golf R32 really did pave the way for the premium hot hatches that we see today. We obviously have the Golf R, the A45, and also the S3 or the RS3. They're just great fun cars to drive. I mean, what's better than a 6-speed manual with a little bit of power behind it? Not so much that you're going to get yourself into trouble, but plenty of torque to play with, and just wicked in the bends. I mean, this 4-wheel drive system in the R32 really allows you to push it out in the corners. I'm having great fun driving this car. These cars were loved by Volkswagen enthusiasts. They have an unshakable market strength.
There's no big community in the EU also. Most of the owners know between themselves. Okay, Data, I see. Yeah. There's also the Golf Otmar Alt, which are weird. Wow, Ukadala, you're throwing something at me that even I've never heard of. So, Otmar Alt. This I gotta look up. Let's try. So what am I looking at? It looks like a Golf. Ooh, okay. So it looks like a Golf 4-door, but with the rear door seams and everything removed. It's just like a long 2-door. That is weird. Is that how they all are? I mean, it looks like a Mark III, but... No, that's... Wait a second. No, that's a 4-door. Explain to me what's going on here. Am I seeing that right? Okay, now I'm on some weird Russian website. All right. There's an artist commission thing. Okay. Huh. Interesting. So. All right. Well, that's... Huh. You're right. That is a very obscure model. I mean, it's a Mark III Golf in this case, but yeah, that is obscure. Two of my friends have Corrado. Both are front USA spec, but the rest is Wolfsburg edition. Electric speedometer spoiler goes up and down for drag. Yeah, I know they had the active arrow, which is cool. Weird decals and upholstery. Okay. Huh. Oh wow. Huh. Are those like almost looks like dogs or cats or like little monsters or something. That is funky. I'm sure someone out there would pay good money for these seats. Just for such a strange, rare thing. Huh. All right. So, obviously... Wait, I didn't mean to write Golf. I meant Corrado. Okay, so the thing about the Volkswagen Corrado is when I talk about the Corrado, I'm talking about these old school ones from the 90s. Yeah, where they got the active spoiler. It's called art. Yeah, that's true. But yeah, these are Corrados. They're basically like taking a Golf and then stretching it. But they're cool in their own way, definitely. And if you got the VR6 version, they sound great too. If you got the G60, they're not as interesting. The VR6 are dope. Yeah. It's acquired taste, though, for sure. Not for everybody. If I got one, though, I'd probably get a green one with, lighter interior, 5-spoke wheels. This is pretty much my ideal spec right here. I like that. All right, moving along.
just simply because this car was
So yeah,
the
Mod
last
Hatter,
of that.
what she's saying here is all true. It's basically all the things you want to know about the car. I'm not trying to sell you on this as the only option. I'm just trying to sell it to you as an option.
V6 engine. No more was to be made, because when it went on to the Mark 6, it went to a 2-litre turbocharged engine. And that means that this is the last of its kind, and something to be enjoyed. The fact that the Golf GTI really pioneered this whole category of hot hatches blows my mind. They just had it so right from the offset, and they've just incrementally got better and better with every model that they brought out. For me, this will always be an iconic car. When I was in my younger years and we were out modifying Volkswagens, this was the car to have. This was the one that everybody wanted, because...
Well, thanks for hanging out for a little while, Ethan. Sorry it wasn't like a whole, crazy bunch of stuff, but, Sunday, it was kind of started late at night. I didn't expect a ton of people to show up, but I've been really happy to see, how many of you actually stuck around. So thank you for spending the time here. I really appreciate it. Have yourself a great night. Yeah, man. For me, having 9 viewers at this time of day on a Sunday night is surprising for me, but I'm happy to have you all here. So I hope you're enjoying watching, and, live car buying advice. A little weird coming from me, but I think the thing that helps separate me from like maybe some other people giving car buying advice is that I'm not necessarily trying to sell somebody on something just because I like it. I just may be able to fulfill like the missing knowledge of like, oh, did you know this existed, and you're looking for these kinds of criteria. So here's some options you may not have considered, because I think a lot of people just get stuck in whatever route that they grew up with or what their friends and their family are already familiar with, and they don't really look outside that unless they get into cars enough to be able to have that knowledge of their own to pursue. In my case, there's tons of weird cars that I would be super interested in. Frankly, I would not suggest to anybody else. They're just stuff that I'm interested in, and I'm not looking to make anybody else's, life difficult by suggesting a car to them that's only going to make them miserable. I'm no fan of Volkswagens, but you could certainly do worse than a VR6. Dan, that's absolutely true. Most of the non-love for Volkswagens comes from the rather earned reputation through the 80s and early 90s for electrical issues, that kind of stuff. Audis have the same problems in a lot of ways because it's all Volkswagen stuff. But they're such common cars. Like, one of the reasons I don't already have something like this is because I'm always looking for more obscure cars. Like, I'm trying to think. Like, I drove a Toyota Tacoma. That's by far like the most common mainstream thing I've ever owned, period, in terms of cars. But I mean, my Miata too. But when my first car was a Subaru SVX, followed by a Honda Element, and I had to Europeans, it's not surprising, but here in the States, I had a Volvo V50 R design with the M66 manual. Like, that is not a common car over here. T5, all that. But in Europe, it's like, oh, whatever. But here, they're rare. You don't see them anywhere. And yeah, I'd totally be a Miata shell. I'd have no problem telling Mod Hatter, yeah, get a Miata. But at the same time, I'd also be like, understand there are a lot of compromises you make when you get a car like that as your only vehicle. Not necessarily not being able to drive in the winter, though. I have personally proven that you can drive in the winter in a Miata and not have issues, and you're fine. And Dan has done the same thing. But no, Dan's not wrong. I love the Miata, and I got nothing bad to say about them for what they are. They do an excellent job. If you try and make them into something they're not, well, that's when you start to see, compromises that can force your hand. But no, as far as like an all-rounder, though, R32 is awesome. I would love one, but I don't want to be one of those people. No hate for Miata lovers, though. It's okay, Mod Hatter. Don't feel pressured into getting anything you don't want. But hopefully I'm at least steering you in a direction that makes sense. Or you can have fun, but you can still be practical. You have all-wheel drive, that you throw good tires on it. It'll take you through any kind of situation. Front-wheel drive can do a lot of that too. And rear-wheel drive with the right tires can do a lot too. There's really not necessarily a huge limitation. What I was saying before, though, was like, as far as me giving car buying advice, I try and look at it through the other person's shoes. It's not necessarily looking at it through my shoes. So I understand a lot of people have, their own things that they get hung up on, but I'm just trying to show a little bigger world out there. But yeah, for me, I love the R32 Golf. It's just Golfs are, kind of common for my taste. But that's actually one of the reasons I do suggest it for you, because I know parts are plentiful. You won't have an issue finding parts for a Golf, like ever. So at least not in your lifetime. So yeah, should be good. What are you guys arguing about here? Oh, puns. And this Golf is so cool. So yeah, Mod Hatter, and I was very impressed to see this one for sale here. 11 grand. And yeah, it's 165,000 miles, so it's not exactly low mileage, but oh, looks like Dino sent some cool pictures here. Nice. Dope. Very nice. Look at all these Corrados. All right, sweet. There we go. All right. Nice. Thanks, Dino. Are you saying I'm young or something? No, I'm. It would actually be different. Like, even if you're, if you're older, it's much more likely you won't run out of parts in your lifetime. But if you're younger, that can be more of an issue. So actually, it's the compliment anyway. It's not calling you young just cause. Dane, she won't say what she means by those people. She means Miata people. We know the type. However, I've never been somebody who somebody could look at with a car and be like, oh, you drive a Jag, you're the British car person. Anybody who looks at my history of cars knows I'm not a British car person. I like specific British cars, but I'm by no means stuck in that lane. And I think that's what kind of helps me. I don't know. I don't want to be an elitist amongst elitists here, but I like to think that my preferences in cars and stuff transcend any of the usual, like, Mopar, no car, or like getting lost in one category. I'm so open to trying all kinds of different cars and stuff that I think that frees me of a lot of that bullshit. So when I'm giving recommendations, yeah, I have biases that are my own, like, weird personal taste for, like, oh, obscure car over here. But I'm not going to let that, shade how I give advice to other people for what their needs are. So I don't know. I think I have the capacity to give good advice, real big talk coming from, somebody. It's an ego trip or whatever. But, you get what I'm saying, I hope. So for all those of you who are watching right now who haven't been talking, and it's just between Dan and Mod Hatter at this point, feel free to weigh in and say what you think you'd be interested in. But I'm happy to at least throw some ideas out there. It's fun. But yeah, I got named out of people. Definitely lost in the small car category. Yeah, it's all right. You're enjoying small cars. For me, Dan, it doesn't have to be small car. I just like lightweight cars, like relative to others in the category. I'm gonna need to get me that R32. No, for real, like that one that's for sale here, that is actually pretty dope. And if I were you, I wouldn't just go in and immediately offer him 11, because 165,000 miles ain't, low. But at the same time, I would trust it, especially in the hands of, like, if what this guy's saying is true here, and you always have to kind of grain of salt, a little bit with that. I think that's something that's worth considering. It's at least fun. I didn't see what transmission it has. Is it? Oh, it's an automatic. So okay, so this one's gonna have the. Did these have paddle shifters? I don't remember. When you got the auto one, I think it's like the DSG. So it's not a manual. So Mod Hatter, if you're looking for a manual, sorry, this one ain't it. But the shifter in that, at least on the DSGs and stuff, this was at the point where the transmissions were finally starting to get better, so it's not a total lost cause. In this case, Volkswagen was much better at these kinds of transmissions. Starting around this point, they were improving. Old autos from the 90s and stuff are definitely earned their title of auto tragic, but this is around the time in the mid to late 2000s where things really started picking up and improving. So, I wouldn't count it out. I think she should at least go and, like, talk to this person and, see if she could test drive it or something. I mean, the fact that it's an auto means it's not something someone's going to screw up easily, so that's nice. So, Mod Hatter, I didn't even ask if you know how to drive a manual or not, but in this case, you don't have to, because it's not a problem. And, yeah, those back seats fold flat. You get a nice big load floor, easy to haul stuff around. It's a very, very useful little car. You got an idea on how to. So yeah, you won't have to worry about it in this case, but it's nice to know the options there. The main reason this appeals to me, though, is seeing that This guy says he has an extra set of original R32 wheels and winter tires with great life on them. So he's got both. That made me learn with the Jeep. Oh my God. If you learned in that Jeep, whew, well, let's just say driving manuals and other cars is not that clunky. There's definitely better ones. Oh no. I love me some obscure cars, but I also seem to have a type. I like brunettes and small cars. Hung Rhino, I want to find an 01 to 06 Silverado 1500 crew cab, preferably from an older person and not someone young. That's my daily driver dream car. Well, you know what? That's interesting. So you like the 01 to 06. So you like the, what is it they call that particular generation of Silverado? I think they call them the cat eye ones, which sounds a little funny, but if I type it in, I'll bet I get results. Let's see. Hey, look at that. Yep. Once again, Hung Rhino, I'm not like somebody who is in deep in all these different car communities and stuff. I've just absorbed so much information from all over the internet in every possible direction that I'll remember some shit like, oh, that's the cat eye Silverado, and it'll actually be it. And then boost it until the Pistons take an early retirement. Dan, you didn't talk to him when he was here, but there's a guy named John Francie who was here locally. He had a Silverado SS for quite a while that he basically like this, but he did some insane shit to it. And by the end, he was making in excess of 1,000 horses. And that thing was just burnout city all the time, everywhere. But yeah, no, for just a DD, the beauty of like all these, Chevy Silverados and stuff like that is, yeah, I mean, parts are plentiful. You're not going to have trouble finding them and stuff. That's cool, though, that you like that. I personally was never really into the cat eye generation of the Silverados and stuff, but I can understand why people would be. To me, it just always kind of looked like, like the early Avalanche when they had the kind of cat eye thing going, and then they changed it to the more truck-like one without all the cladding on it. That was kind of the period there. Not even cam heads intake. I think some of that stuff would be fairly doable, even on a daily. If you're just doing basic things like an intake, you can mess with the camera heads, but that's starting to get into the block and stuff. On that era DSG, watch out in typical things. Jerking when starting to accelerate. In traffic, it should shift smoothly, not jerking between two gears. Good points, Dino. It'd be a daily backup for weekend car. Good points, Hung Rhino. Listen to Dino and don't jerk it between gears. There you go. Damn, thank you for that wonderful, wonderful recitation of words. All right. Moving along.
Anybody could get behind the wheel of it and have some fun. For me, this car takes me back to my youth. It's the way it looks, the way it sounds. They just don't make them like this anymore. I love the gearbox on it. It's nice and firm and precise. It doesn't feel like you're, waving a wand in the Albert Hall. It's right there with you, coming down the gears. It's just so good in the corners. I'm always a rear-wheel drive girl, but I have to admit, four-wheel drive, if you just want to put your foot down and really explore the capabilities of the grip, four-wheel drive is just a masterpiece. And even though the Howdex system is older, it still feels very modern. I can believe that when people...
I'm reading your comments, guys. Oh, God, you guys. Going downhill, it should upshift nicely. There you go. Yeah, so Mod Hatter, basically... You should go check out this Mark V R32 for sale. It looks like a nice example, and the guy was forthcoming about the weird little dent up here, but it makes sense. Like if they were attaching like a roof rack or something and accidentally dented it, some force, it does make sense. The part that's got me is this little pinched area on the bottom of that area above the glass where you see the seal there, it's pinched up. I would definitely look at trying to get like a paintless dent repair person to fix those, just to ensure that you don't have any like sealing issues with that vinyl that goes along the window there, or that rubber seal. But that would be the only thing, and that may be like a couple $100 to get rid of those perfectly, but I think that's doable. It's not something where you have to go in and replace it with a whole part, but yeah, that would be nice. But yeah, you you should check this out. You're not going to get the best fuel economy in the world because the VR6 is, it's a 6-cylinder. It's not going to be as efficient as a 4-cylinder. However, it still does decent. You're in the 20s, but yeah, you just got to be down with that. But no, like the interiors of these, very comfy, very nice little thing to be in every day. And that's important. I think a lot of people overlook that where, yeah, I can get down with being in a super bare bones utilitarian vehicle for a daily driver. But I think for a lot of people, they may get too hung up on, oh, all these different features, all this different stuff I want, and ignore the fact that at the end of the day, you want what you have to be in every day to be a pleasant experience. And the nice thing about the R32s, if I recall, they had heated seats and stuff. Like it was a perfectly pleasant place to be any time of the year. The windows are big, so when you're rolling down, you get a nice volume of air going. This one has a a sunroof and all that. So no, this is a very solid little car. I would feel pretty comfortable recommending that to you, Mod Hatter, and I think that's worth checking out. It's already kind of stormtroopered out too with the white and black like that. But yeah, worth looking at. And the wheels on it aren't half bad. And it looks like he's already got it kind of stanced a little bit. Not a lot, but you can see the fitment on those front tires and wheels. A lot closer, a lot better fitment in terms of the outer mesh. Well, what are you yelling about now? Oh my God, you guys. Dan's being weird again. Oh no. I can't be the kindergarten teacher telling kids to stop spitting another kid's hair or something like that. But y'all gotta chill. Yeah. So anyway, we got an option over there. Huh. Nothing on Craigslist. So it's down to this. However, let me get over here and I'll do Auto Tempest. Yeah. Let's do let's just see what's within 500 miles. What's out there? Okay. Holy shit. What? Okay. Oh. Huh. So this one's been... Oh my God. Okay. No, this is not a normal one. This one isn't remotely normal. Dan, you're okay. I think that's enough though. Typical EU car is my Audi. I drove it for 40,000 miles, no problems. Yesterday I saw I had a leak cooling system, alternator is done, water pump making weird noise, and some pulley also. Yeah. Audi. So this here is an insane R32. They're asking a lot of money. But let's see if it's worth it. This one, oh my God, it's only got 5,410 miles on it. Well, oh my God, it's being sold. It's being sold at a dealership that I recall going to as a kid because that's a cool stuff. Jaguar Land Rover Bellevue. So it's in Bellevue, Washington. It's kind of a bougie area in Washington. Okay, let's read this. Actual 5,000 miles. HPA stage 2. 200 plus mile per hour top speed. 550 horsepower. 0 to 60 in 3.2 seconds. Twin turbo 6-piston Brembo brakes. KW coilover suspension. This specific car was featured in multiple automobile magazines and was the SEMA 2004 Best of Show winner. Extensive HPA modifications. See photos. Wow. Wow. Huh. Take it or leave it. Sailed. Sail! Actually, I'm looking into doing a Magnuson 2650 heads cam fuel mods, etc. on my C7Z. But I'm hesitant on pulling the trigger on like a $30,000 build. Yeah, I think that's a good thing to kind of pause and evaluate before you just go dropping $30K on a build. I want to snag a C6 ZR1 whenever the market gets better, so the cash for the build would go to that instead. My thought is the cars are getting more abused and scarce as time goes on. To find a clean example, the parts for builds will always be there. Clean stock ZR1s, not so much. Becoming a Corvette guy meme at a young age. Yeah, in your case, Rhino, man, that would do it. So yeah, I mean, if you're looking, the C6 ZR1 is a cool car. Certainly, I always thought that little glass on the hood was kind of cool, even though some people thought it was cheesy. I think it's kind of fun in its own way. It's just for me, the C7 was such an improvement of the interior over the C6. Even in ZR1 form, the C6 is still a C6 inside. It didn't improve that much between the base model and the Z06 and the ZR1. The cost increase was everything down to the powertrain. But I get it. And if you're already a Corvette guy, you've decided this, you can live with that. The ZR1 definitely will have value in the future. I think more so than the Z06, the C7 Z06. I think that C6 ZR1 is definitely a little rare, a little more special. I get that. The C7 ZR1 is just absurd, absolutely insane. But yeah, it's once again, it's a little different animal. It's much more track oriented than the C6 ZR1 was, because the ZR1 and the C6 generation was just all about that power. But I mean, it's nothing you're not getting with the C7Z. It's personal preference, right? So, all right, I'm going to get off this listing because this thing is ridiculous. Moving along. What do we have here? We've got, okay, I'm going to shrink the distance. 6 horses. Let's drop this down to 300 miles. Search. Surely there are some results we can work with. I think. Maybe. Hopefully. It's thinking. Also, Carvana, all the cars on Carvana are grossly overpriced. In Austria, it's a luxury to have a car with more than 250 horsepower or more than a 2.5 liter engine. Okay. I don't know all the rules from country to country, but I'm assuming in Austria you guys have some kind of tax on larger engines, probably. And then Dan, man, that drop-down screen and 12-volt outlet are both so to me. I had the screen get stuck with my sunglasses still inside. Yeah. Regarding the C7 interior. Okay. Yeah, I mean, you know, to each their own. Dan, have you ever sat behind the wheel of a C6, though? Because let me tell you, that, I mean, it's better than a C5, if only just. But if you've ever sat inside of a Chevy Cobalt from about the year 2006, and then sat in a C6 Corvette from about 2006, the material quality is pretty much the same. Pretty much. I know some people get mad, some people argue, but it's comparable. Down to the point that the Corvette and the Cobalt actually shared the steering wheel. Our tax is killing. I pay about €1,000 per year just for 190 horsepower. Oof. Oof. Okay, so yeah, so you pay it every year. See, in our case, once I register it, that's my cost essentially on my Jag, and I'm dealing with 650 horsepower, 5 liter, supercharged, all that. And yeah, I'm not, once I bought the car, I paid the sales tax on it once, and then I'm not taxed for anything else on it outside of the registration. That's the only thing. I just do that every year, and that's about, give or take, $74, $75 a year. Yeah, that's about it. Well, that and obviously, you know, insurance. But yeah, that's it. I think it would be a lot more if I was in a different, you know, higher population area. If I lived in LA or I lived in Seattle or something, it would probably be a lot more expensive for me to insure it. But out here in, you know, Idaho, it's really not that bad. Used to drive a Pontiac G6, had the same steering wheel. Yes, Dan, yes. Taxes included with insurance. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, see, Dino, the way it works here, but most of the cost is that. Yeah, Dino, the way it works over here is everything is like separated out. It's very piecemeal. So occasionally, like, depending on your location, you'll have emissions testing or you won't. depending on where you're located. Like here, we're in one county, here where we are in our part of Idaho, but literally just 15 miles that way, you cross over a county line and you're in a county that does no emissions testing, and they're fine with that. So it's a little bit wonky, to say the least. Not everybody's cup of tea. Wow, are there just no results? What the hell? Nothing. All right, continue Auto Trader. We got anything on Auto Trader? Nothing within 300 miles. Oh, how about Car Gurus? Car Gurus tends to surprise me with actual listings. So, yeah, okay. Got some R32 base. Interesting wheels on this one. Okay, pricing though. This gray one looks nice. It's in Portland. Then we got Salem there. Ooh, okay, this one's got some higher miles though. Well, higher miles in the sense that it's close to the other one. But this is the very appealing color combo that everybody likes on these cars. Only thing is the wheels. These cars, this is one of the rare exceptions where I think the stock wheels look a lot better. That interior looks a little worn though. Yeah. Most of the cost is that. My old 313 bi-turbo diesel Audi A6 was about $3,800 with Casco insurance per year. Ooh. Michigan registration fees are really stupid. They're based on the original MSRP. Are you shitting me? My 10-year-old BMW is $250 a year. What? In the EU, it's also based on the MSRP. Oh my God. No. That's wow. Okay, I didn't realize just how good we had it here. Here in Idaho, when you register your car, I mean, your registration fee is one thing. That's a fixed cost. But the sales tax you pay is based on the actual price you paid for it, not the MSRP. It'd be one thing if they discounted it as a vehicle age, but they stopped discounting it after a couple of years of age. Huh. The one goofy one I found was when I had my Ford C-Max Energy, the plug-in hybrid version. I actually got a higher registration fee than I did when I was registering my normal cars. And that was because they considered the hybrid, lumped it in with like a plug-in hybrid. They lumped it in with EVs and they charged it more because they weren't making the money on the road tax that they'd normally make by way of fuel costs. So normally they tie in the road tax stuff and the price of gas here in the state. But because they thought they'd be getting less of it from a plug-in hybrid or an EV, obviously, they charge you more during your registration for that. So that was weird. It was like twice as expensive, which just felt dumb. It's like, no, this car, okay, whatever, fine. The car was extremely economical, though. In the end of its lifetime that I had it for, and I had it for several years, I averaged about 67 miles per gallon. So very happy with that. Yeah, discounted at the edge. They just keep going. That's crazy. Did not heard that. $9,900 out. And this one looks a little rough. The gray ones look nice though. Okay, those are high price, good deal. Okay, this one looks nice. And this one has, I believe, those are the stock wheels. Yeah, this is like a very clean, under the radar, plain looking one. If you buy a 10-year-old CL500, you pay insurance like it's a new one. That is insane, Dino. That sounds so dumb to me. That just seems wrong. Oh. You know, it's funny, though. All this searching is just making me want an R32 now. And I'm someone who never really thought about owning a Golf, but I would buy an R32. The more I look at, I love those blue brake calipers. So cool. Yeah, dope. So, sorry, Mod Hatter, if I've been waxing poetic about the R32, but like in the process of showing you it, I'm suddenly gaining an even greater appreciation to the point that I would almost want it. Not that I don't want it, I would want one. It's just I don't have a practical reason to own one right now. But when does that ever stop me? I guess that's true. Twinsies. Yeah, no, seriously, like that white one there, that's worth looking at. Seriously. That's one to look at. So yeah, just type in Golf R32 into Facebook Marketplace, and apparently that is one option. The GTI is fun, but it's not an R32. And you can see represented in the value between these two cars, they have similar miles. They're both colored white. They're both the same generation, but this GTI and that R32, very different pricing. And there's a reason for that. But it just comes down to the fact that, like the chick said in the video, R32, modern classic for what it is. GTI is a classic in the grand scheme of things, but I mean, 4 cylinders is just, yeah, not so reliable. Yeah, I prefer vastly the VR6. So, no, that's what I'd do if I got one. Okay, here's a Golf R. This is basically what the R32 was replaced with. And yeah, you can see 16.5. It's also white. It's a 4-door instead of a 2-door. And yeah, I mean, granted, the 4 doors add a little extra practicality for access to the rear, but all said and done, you're really not seeing that much more space in a 4-door Golf than you are in a 2. A lot of it is just kind of placebo effect, psychological, etc. Plus, in the case of the Golf R, yes, it is faster than an R32, on paper at least, but it's just not, no. It has character in the way it drives, but the sound is so much. So much. The interiors on these ain't half bad, though. I like the interiors on these. But no, it's just not as cool as the R32, and it never will be. So, yeah, just give you some perspective. Let's see, we got anything else down here? We got lots of Golfs, GTIs, GLSs, Golf R, Wolfsburg Edition GTI, Golf R. Yeah, so, I mean, it's pretty much down to this guy right here. That's all I'm saying. So, yeah, you should totally go look at that. Just saying. Anyway, I'm going to give everybody a heads up. There will be an ad break coming in, so just warning you right now ahead of time before I click that. And if you don't want to see the ads, all you have to do is subscribe. And, if that doesn't work, you can always hope that somebody gift subs to you. That's a nice thing that people do sometimes, by no obligation to anybody to have to do that, but it's nice from time to time. And, of course, if you have Amazon Prime, you can actually use that to get a Prime sub, which doesn't cost you anything. It's just a part of being a Prime member. So you can use that on your favorite streamer. And hey, you know what? If that's me, I'll take it. Thank you. Anyway, here's the ad break now. See you in a few. Excuse me. All right. So moving along here, what else shall we look at? I think I had, oh yeah, I wanted to watch this Doug DeMuro video where he talks about, will old cars die off? So I was thinking we'd watch that here in a second. I'm going to go ahead and close this Car Gurus link. Got the E60 M5. We got this video. So, yeah. I just want to hear some sound bites, though, first. Get some Volkswagen Golf R32 sound. I'm thinking, oh. Let's see what the Magnaflow exhaust sounds like on it. I mean, I'm sure each one's a little bit different, but I just want to hear what it sounds like. Okay, so this is a, excuse me, this is a DSG, so the automatic, on a Mark IV R32, but for all intents and purposes, it is the same drivetrain as you'll find on the later Mark V. So it should sound extremely similar. Going through Marketplace and saw frog legs and sheep ass for sale. What the hell are you looking at, Mod Hatter? What is going on there? Weird. Okay, so we should hear this one. Also, I see a Volkswagen Phaeton in the background. I can't quite see if it's got the 12 or the 8 under the hood, though. Anyway, continue. I don't know, but I gotta delete some things. And I'm being weird again? I know, right, Dan? You didn't even have to say anything. Let's hear this thing. Come on. Start it up. Let's go. I know, it's a double standard, right? Here we go. Come on. Oh. You're priming us. What? That's it? Okay. That's just rude. Give me some real sounds, people. Okay, this is a Mark V, so proper generation now. Yeah. Come on. Get on it. Point is, they sound awesome. That's what you really need to know. Yes, yes, it does. And in person, it sounds even better. Honestly, like, there'll be guys out there with like a 350Z or something. Oh, so Dane, that pull away clip reminded me of the Mustangs and crowds. I pushed it into one of the corners on Bogus Basin and holy understeer, Batman. Maybe the amount of factory understeer contributes to the propensity for hitting crowds. Yeah, they were aiming for like the other side of the crowd, but it understeers and just goes right into them instead. Oh yeah, now we're talking. Yeah, all right. It sounds meaty, Mod Hatter. It sounds meaty. So that's the same exhaust, I'm assuming, that the one here in town has. So cool. Yeah. And for people who are just like, oh, I would prefer the sound of the VQ, like a 350Z or 370Z. Hot take, I prefer the sound of the VR6 over VQs. I know some people joke that the VQ sounds like a trumpet or trombone or whatever, but VR6, man, it just sounds so warbly and like smooth, but at the same time, it's got this growl, this energy to it. It's hypnotic. Whereas the VQ sound can be a little brash sometimes. I'm not wild about it. Yeah, Dan, I agree. Hypothetically, you want to do a donut and it understeered instead. Ah, I see. I see. So yeah, Mod Hatter. Hopefully, I have given you at least enough reasons to go check one out. At least, you know, just a little something. All right. So now that we're off that, let's go ahead and watch Doug DeMiro talk about old cars and whether or not they'll die off. Let's talk about it. Now Glenn can stop pestering me. Yes, Mod Hatter. I think it would be fun if you got that. I would definitely, if you got it, I would ask for a ride or a chance to drive it, because I've driven several Volkswagen Golfs, but I have not driven an R32, and I always wanted to, just to see what that's like. But everything I hear is wonderful. Wonderful things. Yeah. Don't get me wrong. Yeah, no, you should totally at least go pursue that. If you're seriously looking at used cars right now and you're genuinely considering something, I think you could do a lot worse than that. Yes, it's higher miles and all that, but if you were to come in with a price of like somewhere around, I don't know, 9 you were willing to offer, like to start, see if he goes for it. If he doesn't, that's fine. You can move up a little bit, but at least start the conversation. And you don't don't start the conversation, go, I'll give you this much, because that can kind of throw people the wrong way. Usually, if you're going to have a conversation, you might want to start with something just saying, you were told about R32s, you saw this one was local, you're interested, you're not like looking to necessarily buy something on the spot, but you're willing to give it a look, and then you can go check it out. And if you want somebody to come with you to go look at it, hey, that's cool, just let me know. Yeah. I'm so glad I got to witness Dane tempt someone into buying a cool car. Dan, I'm glad, I had the chance to tempt somebody into buying a cool car. Now the only matter is whether or not she actually, goes for it or not. And that's fine. If you decide, not for me, I'd rather go look at something else. No harm, no foul, no pressure there. You're totally fine. Need supervision though. Yeah, whatever you look at, take like Glenn or myself or Anthony or somebody with you, or like Levi, somebody who knows cars enough to keep you out of potentially stepping in something that you don't want to step in. That's fair. That's a good idea. But yeah, I'm curious about this. I just want to hear what Doug has to say about old cars dying off and whether or not it'll actually happen. Because I think a lot of people feel like with the surge of EVs around the corner, everywhere you look, and all these companies are turning over, and these states are saying, oh, no more gas car sales after this date, and kind of freaking some people out. Let's see what he has to say. He's usually like, whatever opinions you have on Doug, I feel like he's very savvy and understands the car market pretty well when it comes to these kinds of trends. So anyway, let's see what he says.
This is Doug DeMuro. Today, we're going to answer the question, will old cars die off with old car enthusiasts? Meaning cars from the 40s, 50s, 60s, are they just going to be worthless and pushed aside as kind of the new generation of car enthusiasts takes over, and some of the people who are more into those cars kind of pass away? And that's a question I get asked a lot, and let's talk about it.
All right.
Before I get started, be sure to check out Cars and Bids,
Holy crap, you got an old
which is
Saturn.
my enthusiast car auction website for
SL.
cool cars from the modern era with free listings. You can list your cool car for free and auction it on Cars and Bids. And we've had some great sales recently, including this fantastic BMW Wagons.
I know, Dan. I'm having to actively restrain myself from muting him. I know. His vocal cadence is not for everybody, but at the same time, he's very self-aware. And I have to say, whatever your opinion, if you listen to him like on a podcast, specifically like I know, like a Matt Ferris Smoking Tire podcast, the Doug DeMuro interviews he's done on there, fascinating. Like I love hearing what Doug thinks about stuff because he's a sharp dude. So yeah, no, I like hearing what he has to say, regardless of your particular choice of his vocal range, if that drives you crazy or not. I just want to hear what he has to say.
Sold for just under $30,000. We've done great with BMW Wagons on Cars and Bids. This wonderful Lexus SC430 sold for $28,000. We've also surprisingly done well with these. And this great Honda S2000 brought $36,000. Good money. This one was supercharged. A great car. If you're looking to buy or sell a cool enthusiast car,
that has to be, and no wonder he's in front of it because he's probably going to do a review on it down the line here, but that has to be the nicest kept example of that particular Saturn I have ever seen.
Car from the modern era, the 1980s and up, Cars and Bids is the place to do it with daily auctions and free listings. Check it out at carsandbids.com. Okay, so will old cars die off with old car enthusiasts? It's an interesting thing to think about when you think about car enthusiasm and kind of where it's going to go in the future. And I get asked this question frequently by people. What's going to happen to these 60s cars that are so idolized now when the baby boomers die off? These people who were born in the 40s, who grew up with those cars, they're very special. A lot of those cars are owned by those people now. Where are those cars going to end up? What is going to be the level of enthusiasm for those cars when people my age kind of get older? Are they still going to be desirable? And I think it's an interesting question. And I think the answer that a lot of these people should come to terms with is that, yeah, I think to an extent, a lot of these older cars are going to die off. I don't think there's going to be a lot of interest for a lot of these cars, which are kind of considered to be very special, very vaunted 60s special cars. Right?
Unless you're Gabe, who is a man twice his age, trapped in a man half his age's body.
Right now. And frankly, I think we're already seeing this start to happen with like brass era cars, right? Cars from the 1910s, 20s, even the 30s. the people who were into those, they're not around anymore. And I don't think there's a lot of enthusiasm among a lot of people of keeping those cars on the road. And they're difficult to keep on the road. They're not easy to drive. They're not easy to look after. You got to know what you're doing. And so people are starting to see values of those cars kind of decline and interest in those cars decline. And cars that were...
I think that when you're talking about cars of that age, you're looking at stuff that is of a museum level interest, where it's a historical artifact. It's no longer something that you plan on driving around that much and taking to shows, with rare exceptions. It's definitely the exception, not the rule. Yeah, it's interesting. Gabe was asking me about 80 series, and I don't hate the idea of selling it to him. Oh my god. Dan, if Gabe wants your 80 series, you should sell it to him.
Once important.
He is not exclusively talking to you about 80 series. He talks about them all the time. He wants one so bad. He drives a 100 series Land Cruiser already, but the 80 series is just like, it's just something in his head that he wants. He wants the 80 series because he really wants the triple lockers, among other things. And if the truck doesn't have them, he would just add them, I guess. Like his some of the favorite words in his vocabulary are like old man emu. And if you know Land Cruisers, you know. But yeah, no, something like the way I get about like weird K car, like sports car K cars and like other stuff like that, that's Gabe for otherwise very ordinary vehicles, but just some of the best built. So he is obsessed with the Land Cruiser 80 series. I think they're fine. I think they're cool in their own way, but I could never get that enthusiastic about something like that. And he is, God bless him. So, it's like I said earlier, different strokes for different folks. It's definitely not my cup of tea, but boy, he loves them. And he is one of those guys who, like, it's a trait amongst certain kinds of Toyota owners, but he is a Toyota guy through and through. He will consider other vehicles, like he has a Honda Civic that was an extremely low mile. He's obsessed with like value, especially like resale value and like things that will appreciate and stuff. And yes, buying cars in the hopes that they appreciate is never really that great of an idea. You'll almost always perform better having a trained monkey pick stocks for you than you will trying to pick a car that's going to go up in value at the right time in the market and all that stuff. This is not a financial advice podcast. Don't treat it as one. I'm not a financial advisor, but I'm simply giving my own personal opinion based on personal understanding. But yeah, no, the man loves his classic Land Cruisers. He just loves that 80 series. For some reason, the 80 series speaks to him more than any other. It's like new enough to have some creature comforts, but old enough to have the really hardcore off-road stuff that he really wants. Whatever reason, he loves it. But yeah, the value is definitely something for him. But the problem is, like, when you look at the values, he's looking at it like some of the bring a trailer stuff and then applying that logic to like ones you'll find on Craigslist. He's just like, oh yeah, you build that up, that could totally be worth like 60 grand or 80 grand. I'm like, no, like this $20,000 one here on Craigslist is probably going to stay a $20,000 one because it's not ultra low mile or whatever the other thing is going on, ultra low mile triple locker limited edition one that you saw on Bring a Trailer. It's a totally different animal. It's apples and oranges, even though it's the same vehicle. They're very different interest levels based on the specifics. So that is something to understand when you're talking about cars. People, their level of understanding, it definitely determines. Well, there's just so much to say there, and I won't get lost down that rabbit hole with you right now because I'm trying to watch a video. But oh my God, some people. He is an example of someone who is very much down the Toyota rabbit hole. He wants the off-roader Toyota stuff. He's got his classic 4Runner. He wants a classic Land Cruiser. He's got his current Land Cruiser. He has the Honda Civic with the ultra low miles and all that stuff. And it's all about the potential resale value and all those things for him. But then again, he's also like not so precious with it that he wouldn't sell it to do other things. The only vehicle of his that I know of that he definitely wouldn't sell at this point would be his white 94, I think it is, Toyota pickup. It's like all vintage and stuff. He sold it once before, deeply regretted it, found where it was, bought it back, and he's never letting that thing go again. Yours has 350,000 miles. Yeah. All the ones you see for like 20 or 30K around here have at least like 200 to 300,000 miles on them. It's stupid what people are willing to pay for those things. It's crazy. But there's some kind of mystique, some kind of legend that's built, and I understand some of it, but the problem is people get caught up in it and then it goes way far. So yeah, it's take a certain dose of reality before you go getting lost out there.
Important special cars from that era are often kind of ignored by younger people. Frankly, even including the baby boomers who were born in the 40s, 50s, a lot of them don't want anything to do with the 1910s, 20s cars. It's just not interesting to them. And I think that gives us a good preview of what's going to happen to 40s, 50s, 60s cars as the next generation kind of ages in. I really do. I really think that it's hard to believe, as it might be, some of these 60s cars that are considered so special by the group that really goes after them now may not be loved quite as much by the next group, and the brass era cars are kind of a good example of that happening. But with that said, I want to make
Dan, that would honestly be a good move. Sell your Land Cruiser and then buy a VR6. Which VR6? I mean, you could get an R32, which would be the coolest VR6 probably, but well, there are other very cool VR6 models. So, up to you.
a point here. I do think that some cars are...
If you want something less reliable, you could always get yourself a Touareg VR6. Problem is the rest of the vehicle around it, the engine might be good, but there's a lot of stuff going on around it that could be problematic.
Are an exception to this. So brass era cars, right? People who are younger in their 30s, 40s, they look at those and they think they all look the same. They're all disasters. They all go 9 miles an hour. I don't want anything to do with those. I don't think it's quite the same for 50s, 60s, and 70s cars. Some cars from this era, 50s, 60s, 70s specifically, are icons, like iconic cars in the history of the car. Now that's also kind of true of brass era cars, but they're just not as rewarding. Specifically, Mercedes-Benz Gullwing. That's an iconic car that will never lose some of that following. The split window Corvettes, iconic design, one of the most beautiful cars of all time. The Jaguar E-Type, one of the most beautiful cars of all time. Tail fin Cadillacs from the 50s, big old
However, I will argue,
E-Type, one of the most
just in my car nerd way, that is a, I believe, Series 2 XK, which had the less attractive headlights. Everything else about that XK I absolutely love, the chrome bumpers, all that business, but the headlights, it's just not the same. If I type in Series 1 Jaguar XKE, you'll notice that the headlights have covers over them, and they're not protruding from that space. It's, again, very minor to some people, but big to me. So, yeah, from a styling perspective, if I had a Jaguar XKE, which, you know, I'm not that big of a glutton for punishment, so I wouldn't do that to myself. As much as it's a beautiful car, it's known the world over for creating some of that Jaguar reputation for being difficult. Being difficult, we'll say. But yeah, Series 2, you will notice, is when things start to change on those headlights and they are no longer covered, they're open, and you have that deal. Yeah, I'm talking about these. See how dumb that looks from here? It does not look as good. Some people might think it looks good. I personally do not think it looks good. I do not enjoy that. I do not like that. Ooh, a C4ZR1. Dan, I like where your head's at. Get yourself a C4ZR1. That would be a badass choice. Very. Yeah. Just not, it's not as good. Straight up, it's not as good. So, yeah, Series 1 is where it's at. And unfortunately, the collector market agrees because Series 1s go for significantly more money than Series 2 do. And all the difference there is just by a year or two, a few years worth of time difference. So, yeah, there you go. Anyway, moving on.
Beautiful cars of all time. Tail fin Cadillacs from the 50s, big old thin Cadillacs.
Eldorado.
Very iconic.
Another car where if you get the two-door, worth good money. You get the 4-door. Some guy thinks he got a deal, but it's actually not worth as much, not by a long shot.
Iconic cars from an era that's very, very special. 60s Ferraris, 250 LMs, 250 GTOs, short wheelbases, all very special and desirable
Yeah, no, that is one of the best looking ones.
cars. And to me, I think that even though some cars from this era, most cars from this era, the 50s, 60s, will lose their appeal, I truly can't imagine a world in which you look at like 250 LM and nobody wants it. It's just, they were too special. They were.
I mean, from a styling perspective, there are definitely people who'll look at that and go, I want to say I prefer the bread van, which if you're not familiar with the Ferrari bread van, here's another take. Yeah, I think they look badass, but it's definitely an acquired taste. They called it the bread van because, well, look at it. It looks like there could be an oven back there. But for aero purposes, they did that, and guess what? It won races and shit. So clearly, wasn't such a bad idea. Later developed into camback kind of style. I mean, the Shelby Cobra, Daytona coupe. That one also. So like a Shelby Daytona coupe. Kind of perfected the camback style where you get that kind of point down to a flat point on the rear. Yeah, and then you get that. Yeah, Ferrari 250 GTO ain't ever going to be affordable. True. It is so beyond the means of mere mortals that it's not even worth thinking about if you're not a billionaire. So, yeah. Dino, I have a few offers for my A6 to get a Cayenne. Interesting. But would you drop your A6 to get a Cayenne? And if so, would it be a more recent Cayenne or would it be like an OG Cayenne? Because the OG Cayennes actually had like pretty decent off-road chops. If you modify them correctly, you can do a lot with them. The downside is their reliability factor is a little iffy.
Too desirable, they were too iconic, and unlike the brass era cars, they're beautiful. 60s cars existed in a world without regulations, they could do whatever they wanted to in terms of design, and they did. And that was an era of unbelievably attractive and beautiful cars, the split windows and the E-types and all those cars. And so I think that some of the iconic cars will always be considered iconic by many age groups to come. Probably not in 200 years, they'll be relics. But in the next generation, the generation after, if Ferrari's still a thing, Corvettes are still a thing, you go back and look at where that stuff started, you still want to be a part of that, especially because it was just so damn cool. So I think that's one distinction between brass era cars and, the 60s stuff that's awesome. Chevy Bel Airs are cool. C1 Corvettes are cool. They look like rocket ships inside. Like, those are neat cars that I think will endure. Now, the lesser stuff that does still get a lot of excitement and interest, I think will start to die off. Stuff that is not iconic, I think people won't continue to pursue and will start to lose value. I think some of these people who are hoarding these cars or who are very excited about these cars will have to come to terms with the fact that some of the younger people just aren't as interested. But I think the real icon cars will survive, maybe not as valuable as they are now. Maybe there's a day where a 250 GTO isn't worth $75 million, or where an E-Type isn't a $100,000 to $200,000 car, or a Dino isn't a $500,000 car. Those may start to slow down as you have less competition for them, but I think there will always be a market of people out there. I mean, if Gullwings ever got cheap, I'd get one. And I'm not into 50s cars, I'm not into that stuff, but like, it's an icon, it's a cool car, you'd want to be a part of it. And an important thing to point out is a lot of these cars had pretty good performance. Not amazing performance, but like versus brass era cars, which go 14 miles an hour, like a 60s Corvette is still pretty cool. It sounds good, it's relatively quick. Same deal with the Ferraris in this era, the Gullwing.
After the 40s, once you got into the 50s and the 60s, while there were a lot of things that differentiated between different vehicles, there started to be sort of a generally agreed upon normal places to put certain switches and gauges and levers and stuff. It became easier to kind of go, oh, okay, that's a natural placement for that particular thing and that particular thing. It made more sense over time. But, oh yeah, look at that nice emote. Tell you what, guys, as we build up the subscriber base here, I'm looking to add more cool emotes and stuff so that you guys have fun things to play with. I'll go out and find if I have to buy some, download, and put on here. I'll totally do it. But I'll find some interesting stuff. I think it'd be fun. Stuff that's like relevant to the channel. So if I can find some like car type emotes and stuff, I'll see what I can find. Maybe dig around this week and I don't know, see if there's some stuff out there. And then the next time people subscribe and they can use cool emotes, that is kind of a fun part of being a subscriber. Yeah, we'll work on that. Dino, my A6 has 40,000 miles, but the Cayenne has about 80 to 90,000. Okay, but you're talking about a 2014 3-liter diesel. So, all right. Same faces would be pretty great. And I could probably do something goofy like that. Set something up. And some different expressions where it's just like, oh, I do not approve of that. Or I do. Yeah. So there's some options out there. I'll have to find some stuff. I like animated things though too. So I don't know. I'll have to figure it out. That's something I haven't delved very deep into, but I feel like now that I'm getting subscribers and we're starting to kind of build a little bit of a base here, I should really do that to make it more fun. When you're subscribed, you can actually use some pretty dope emotes. So that's my hope anyway. Yeah. So we'll work on that. But yeah, Cayenne 3-liter diesel, a 2014, handsome vehicle, easy. What's with the Hulk costume? Oh God, Dino. That was for a video that we'll have. It'll play. Is there any insight? The real context is we've got a video that we shot with it. It's not going to be like a long video. It's actually a pretty short video, but you will see it whenever it's done. Probably only once or twice because it's actually tied to a sale we're going to be doing. And it's going to happen, I don't know, I'm guessing close to Halloween is the idea, obviously. But you'll probably see it during the commercial break on a Q&A. That's going to be like the main time to see it. Although it may also go out on the channel as like a thing where we put it out just for a few days and then we unlist it. So yeah, I don't have the details for you, but you heard it here first. You don't get any real details, but just know there's a little something coming. Maybe there's some specials on the way, something interesting. But it required me to get friggin' face painted green and all that shit, and oh boy, that stuff did not come off easy. And the worst part was that evening had to do an actual presentation for like a class from the local college here that does an MBA program, Masters of Business Association, all that stuff. But basically, like, these classes come through and they come check out the business because it's an interesting example of like growth in a small business and all that stuff. And my mom took the class, so she started making it into a regular thing we do every year where we host that year's class to come back, and it's her way of like paying it back to say thank you to the program for what good it did for her. So yeah, it kind of became a regular thing where they come and we talk to them and they can answer questions and all that stuff, and it's interesting. But the problem was, in my case, I was dressed and painted like friggin' Hulk, and that was gonna look real stupid in front of all these like very professional business students, whatever. And I'm like, I can't be like that. So I had to run home as fast as I freaking could. It was the end of the day, and I had half an hour to get home, take a shower, and get back to TRC and not look green in front of the students. So yeah, Masters of Business Administration. I know, I'm tired. I was messing it up. I knew the A stood for like, yeah, administration. Thank you. I appreciate that. Anyway, you get the idea. So it was a race against time, and I almost didn't make it because they told me it was going to be easy body paint. Like, oh, yeah, whatever. It's fine. You're covered in green, but it'll come off. You'll be okay. So for those who aren't familiar, I'll go back to it. Yeah, let me find it. Where is it? There it is. I mean, yikes, right? Just yikes. Everything about that is yikes. Obviously, Anthony's Homelander because, let's be real, he totally could be Homelander. Thank God he actually understands the difference between right and wrong, usually. And then Levi is Fat Thor, so that's fun. And I'm the Hulk, who, for some strange reason, has a hole in the fist, and I really don't like how that looks in that picture. That is definitely not flattering. When I saw it, all I could say was, thank God there's not a hole on the other side of this stick-on fist, thank God. But yeah, anyway, I was very green, and that was going to be very bad if it didn't come off in time. And it almost didn't. It almost didn't. I had one of the attendees asking me where the presentation was at. I was working outside. Oh no, Dad. So you got wrapped into it too. Anyway, I'll go ahead and keep playing this, but hang in there, dude.
They had acceptable performance and iconic designs. Now, with that said, speaking of performance, one interesting thing. The performance is fine, it's good, it was nice, some of them were pretty fast, but it's not like amazing. And something I've always thought about with cars from this era is, okay, you have these cars that have these engines that are becoming mechanically complex, so you're having trouble finding people to work on them. The performance isn't like up to modern car levels, but you have this iconic look. The gull wings, the E-types, these...
Here it comes. He's gonna say EV swap them. Just wait.
They're beautiful, you know, the original Camaros, the original Mustangs.
I haven't watched this video before, but I can smell it. Here it comes.
Beautiful cars, very special designs that designers now.
And yes, sound is a very important part of those cars, for the most part. The more performance-y ones amongst them, yes, the sound is very important. But for something like a Volkswagen bus or something, I'll be honest, I could give a shit about the, you know, wheezy little air-cooled four-cylinder in the back. It's iconic, yes, but it's also iconically slow. So you replace that with Navy, I totally get it. Like the Z-Electric bugs and, you know, Volkswagen bus conversions makes total sense. I'm all for that. But yeah, definitely something where, you know, you got to give it some thought.
Now we're still trying to emulate. So what's going to happen with that? And I often think to myself whether electrification will start to come to these cars. No, I don't think that 250 GTOs will ever be electrified. But you think about old Mustangs, right? Like that car looks really cool. But who wants to keep one of those on the road? And even if you do, with the engine that it had, it's carbureted and it's slow. Wouldn't it be cooler to have all of the benefit of the style, plus put in a modern electric powertrain, which makes the car both faster and more reliable? And some people are gonna be watching this video and be like, that's sacrilege, I would never do that. But like, okay, they made hundreds of thousands of those Mustangs. It's not like that's ruining anything. Like E-types, same way. They made tens of thousands of E-types and they all were preserved somehow and they're all in nice shape. And you see 20 of them at every event. There's a market out there to make these cars modern day fast, put a Tesla powertrain in an E-type. That'd be cool.
It would also make that E-type like 5 billion times more reliable. So I also say this, I have to state, I am no Tesla fanboy. The paint quality, the panel gaps, all that shit, some of the interior design choices. I'm a fan of minimalism, but I still think the interior of the Model 3 is kind of dumb. Yeah, I have zero problem calling out that bullshit.
And it makes them more reliable. And I really wonder if long-term some of the strategy...
The 289 V8 was actually respectably quick. Dan, the thing to understand about Doug here, and it's not, he doesn't state it in this video, but I've heard him talk about it before. And it's not even necessarily fair, but this is just the way he evaluates stuff. He measures everything, like, and I mean everything. He'll contextualize it, but like everything he measures against the modern equivalent. So like a sports car back then versus a sports car now, a four-cylinder can do what the 289 V8 did back then, fairly handily with modern technology. Is it going to be the same? Absolutely not. The sound, the vibrations, all that stuff, it's different. No question, no doubt there. But yeah, no, he weighs everything against, the movement of time, and he doesn't necessarily pull punches where he just goes, yeah, but I'll make excuses for this because the era was different. He understands that, and he'll say that, when it's relevant. But yeah, just as a shorthand, when he says this stuff, though, he's using the word fast to describe like a very particular amount of fast, and the older cars may or may not be capable of that. Whereas, the modern ones, when he thinks fast, there's certain limits to what is acceptable in terms of his numbers. That's why his Doug score stuff can frustrate some people, because he's using the Doug score like on old cars. They're being measured against new cars in terms of like features and creature comforts and stuff like that, and performance, when that's not necessarily a one-to-one, kind of thing. But it's just the expectations of the day were different. But yeah, like if I remember correctly, the 0 to 60 of a 289 powered Mustang is something like 8 or 9 seconds, maybe. Let's look it up. 1965 Ford Mustang 289 stock 0 to 60. And yeah, it comes down to tire technology and some other things. Let's look. Okay, there we go. Da, 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 da. 4-speed manual. .3 seconds. Yeah. So that puts in perspective. Rode in a 64 V8 Mustang in 2013. It was plenty capable to build speed. It was definitely torque fast and not powerful fast. Yeah, exactly. Mod Hatter, I'm glad I could help you out. Hopefully, this gave you some cool ideas, and you should totally say hey to that guy who has the R32 locally, and have a good night. Wonderful. Sweet dreams, all that good stuff, but, maybe just dream of the growl of an R32. Or the VR6 more specifically. Anyway, enjoy. Yeah, but Dan, like you rode one. I totally agree. You definitely get that torquey feel. Like, okay, yeah, it's pulling itself out of its own way. It didn't feel slow by any means, but like, you want to talk slow? My van is slow. My van is an imported van from Japan. It's a Toyota Town Ace. Has 95 horsepower from a 2-liter inline 4, and the thing weighs 4,000 pounds. So obviously, I have good reference for what a slow vehicle is. And even slower than that, you go to like an old Volkswagen bus or something, that can get excruciatingly slow. But yeah, I mean, a 289 V8 Mustang in its totally original form, 8.3 seconds, respectable, especially for the era. I think a lot of people just have it in their heads like, oh my God, yeah, no, I knew this guy. He had, this woodshed over here, and he was building out this, GTO or whatever, and it totally just badass, absolutely blow your mind how fast it was. And then you find out later that it was like, okay, it was modified a bit, had maybe 400 to 500 horsepower. You still had horrible tire technology at the time, and the thing weighed a bunch because, yeah, the weight reduction was so-so. I mean, yeah, it's definitely, yeah, moving truck did 0 to 60 in 78 seconds. Yes, Dan, but that was also probably fully loaded, was it not? I mean, I'm agreeing it's all relative, but I also understand like when Doug talks about this stuff, he is comparing it to a modern car. Now you have freaking Toyota Camrys doing 0 to 60 in the sub 6-second range, sometimes sub 5-second range, I think, on the TRD now. Now I'm curious actually if it is. Let's try that. Okay, sub 6. I mean, it's a freaking Toyota Camry, dude. So, yeah, when your standard family car has a trim level that allows you to do 0 to 60 in under 6 seconds, tire technology has improved a lot. Traction control systems allow you to have fun without necessarily cutting in on it. Sometimes, depends on the system. But there's just a lot of stuff out there that, technology has helped a lot with. But the experience doesn't go away from those old cars. And I think that's kind of the thing we're talking about here. But it is hard, like going into an EV thing. It becomes difficult because it does feel like you're ripping out a little bit of the soul when you do it. Because that engine is the soul of the vehicle. Engine swaps for another internal combustion engine, I'm fine with that. I get that. And for certain vehicles that weren't necessarily, the most performance oriented, but I like the style of like a forward controlled Jeep or something, then yeah, the EV makes sense. And if comfort's your main thing on a car, like Dino says here, EV is awesome in terms of comfort level because it takes out a huge amount of the NVH, the noise, vibration, harshness, because that is something that manufacturers are constantly concerned with. The downside of eliminating NVH is you get rid of some of the drama with the car too. It can get a little tricky because when you eliminate the vibration, those other things, it can make something that otherwise has very high performance feel dull, lifeless. I mean, you could be fast in a straight line, but if you're not getting like feedback through the wheel, all those things, it's definitely tough. Like a 2JZ into a 68 Mustang. Huh, where have I heard that before? I wonder if you know. Okay, anyway. I don't like those sport. What you mean, Dino? You don't like, do you mean you don't like sports cars? Just want to make sure I understand.
for some of these electric cars is going to be electrification. You're already starting to see it. There are already companies popping up that are electrifying some of the lesser cars. You're seeing it in Volkswagen Bugs. You're seeing it in Karmann Ghias, some early 911s. Some Volkswagen buses are getting electrified. I wouldn't be surprised if that really spreads to more cars. Younger people are going to embrace electrification in a way that the older crowd isn't. And when younger people age into this world where they can afford some of these cars, they're going to look at them and say, yeah, I would love to have an E-Type or a split window, but they're so nobody even works on cars like this anymore. And then they're going to start thinking, well, wait a minute, I have a plug in my garage. I could just plug it into my Tesla charger and drive around on a split window that does 0 to 60 in 3 seconds. How cool would that be? And I think there's something to be said for that. And I wouldn't be surprised if electrification has some effect at preserving these cars' shelf life for longer than we might think, because the powertrains get outdated and this becomes a thing that people start to pursue with some of these old.
Well, imagine going to, car shows, and it's not just assholes with bad-sounding exhaust revving at each other, because that's no longer an option. I love it when it's good, but the problem is the people who want to show off the most usually have the worst ones, let's be honest.
Cars. But anyway, there you go. A lot of people ask me this question, and that's my take. Yes, I do think that the interest in these older 50s, 60s, 70s cars will start to wane, just like it has with cars from earlier eras. At the end of the day, the people keeping that enthusiasm alive is a lot of times the people who lived in that era. And ultimately, younger people didn't. We want cars like this in a lot of cases. And so it makes more sense that those 60s, 70s cars, even as iconic as we view them now, will start to lose some interest. But I really think two important things. The icon cars will always stick around, like I mentioned. They may not be quite as valuable as they are now, but there will always be demand for split windows and Ferraris and first-gen Camaros, all that stuff. And I also think that electrification is something that people are going to start turning to more and more. Even though it sounds like sacrilege to get rid of V8s and loud exhaust, I think it's going to be tough. There's going to be emission laws. There's going to be a general familiarity with electric cars that people have. And it's going to kind of send people to electrify some of these classics. And I think that's going to happen down the line. And it may preserve some of these cars long term as like, wow, the beautiful style with a modern electric power plant. That's my thought on kind of the future of some of these older cars.
Fair. Okay, so Dino here, like GTI of any kind, I don't like it. Suspension is too harsh for a family hauler, and that's fair. I mean, obviously, you can change your suspension for a softer one, but in the case of the GTI, that's kind of going against the ethos of that car. I mean, sounds like what you're more into, excuse me, hiccups, would be like more along the lines of a Grand Tourer or an executive saloon or estate. Where you live, I imagine it's a lot easier to get those, executive cars in particular, like your A6 is a good example, but are you somebody who prefers like a sedan, like a saloon type car, with a trunk and all that? Because yeah, the A6 is certainly great for that. You could always move up to like an A7 or an A8, but I know that would also come with some limitations in terms of the cost. It must be very extensive in your cost to run something like that over there, even if you had a lower trim. And there's always other options too. I guess, in Austria, do they have Opels over there? I know Opels are mostly German, but if you have Opels over there, I suppose there's some options in that front. Of course, a lot of the times when people are looking at family saloons, that kind of stuff, they tend to go German. If you're in a European country, it just kind of is the default. Everybody's looking at a Mercedes E-Class or a BMW 5 Series or the Audi A6. So those are kind of like the go-tos. But you're saying you want to sell your A6 and move on to something else. It sounds like you're kind of bored of it. Am I hearing that right? Am I understanding that right? Or is there something else that makes you just feel like selling it? Is there some particular reason that you just feel compelled to do that? And bring out the drama that an electric vehicle can have. Yeah, no, Dan, I think there's definitely the capacity to do something very interesting with, EV power and make it more fun, more engaging. And I've seen some possibilities there, like Hyundai is testing stuff out that seems interesting. Okay, you're bored, I can get that. But bored by the performance, or just bored by like, oh, I go out to my, given, saloon every day, and it's just kind of, it's all right. Do you think the SUV would be something that would, be more enjoyable to you? Because I mean, you're sacrificing some definite fuel economy by moving up to a heavier, higher riding vehicle and that kind of thing. But at the same time, if it makes sense to you and you don't mind, then I suppose it can't hurt. It's all up to you and what you want to do with it. But yeah, between those two, I would go for the Cayenne. I think like, yeah, a little bit of reliability scares me a little bit, but at the same time, those Cayennes are also wonderful vehicles when they're running, right? I hear nothing but good things when they're running well. Just the other times can get a little scary and and expensive. Yeah. What do I want to look for? I want to look for oh yeah.
Imagine for a second you had the money to buy yourself one of those. The £2 million Pininfarina Battista, the Rimac Nevera-based, Italian-designed, pure electric hypercar. What would that be like? Well, today we're going to engage our imaginations and find out. I'm dressed how I imagine a rich person might dress. This is my house for the next 20 minutes at least, and we're going to drive the Battista on road and on track. Come on, let's go. Oh, forgot my phone.
That's all that carbon fiber, Jesus.
Okay, a quick lesson in how to start up the Pininfarina Battista. The first thing you do is jab this dial here. That fires up the whole system. This screen over here gives you
Turning on my car just like I turn on my computer. And I need more space now. A6 is 190 horsepower, so I would put some roof rack in those boxes on it. It'd be slow as hell. Yeah. I mean, same fuel economy as an SUV. Wow. That's interesting. So, yeah, feeling kind of same things on. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, when you do them up, Cayennes, like when they do the overland thing with them, can look very cool. Yeah, there's some cool ones out there for sure. I like when people lift and put them on the tires, but that also tends to get rid of a lot of the, well, you know, a lot of the things that you would want for the fuel economy's sake. I mean, these earlier ones were definitely tougher. I know you can't do overland things in the EU. It's one of those things that's cool, but yeah, I don't think that's just you're limited. I get it. But yeah, for just a typical on the road kind of deal, I could see it. Oh, but those are cool though. They are very cool. Um oh wow, that one's mean looking. It's always lifted Cayennes. They are cool. Man, there was somebody who here locally, I remember seeing it for a while for $20,000. Somebody had a lifted full overland setup Cayenne Turbo S. Like not even the normal turbo, but the Turbo S. It was 20 grand, and you're looking going, that looks like a really good bad idea. Because it was lifted, it had the huge knobby tires, it had a snorkel, it had the roof rack, the whole thing, and you're just like, I really shouldn't, but boy, that looks fun. And it's just, yeah, no, just shouldn't do it. But boy, it's tempting. Even if you think Cayennes are ugly, they got potential there for sure. Yeah, and I do think those first gens are quite ugly. But somehow, when you throw a bunch of shit on them, it just works. Yeah, it works. But no, for your purposes, a 2014, I mean, we're talking about that. I just think from a driving dynamics perspective, OEM roof box from Tula, yeah, yeah. I mean, this is definitely the better looking of the Cayennes, and yeah, when you put a roof box on there, you do kind of limit your fuel economy. They try and make them aerodynamic, but it does cut into it a decent amount. Um, yeah, but they're nice looking for, compared to the first gens, they're dramatically better looking than those. Although they took away some of the off-road chops by this point, it was definitely starting to orient it more towards its eventual, more on-road presence. Which, I mean, it was a performance SUV. Even in the lower forms, it was still designed with that in mind. So I get it. But yeah, no, this one's 4.2 V8. You want the 3-liter diesel, but yeah, I just hear they have transfer case problems. Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. But no, I think they're a handsome, SUV, and they don't look out of place in many spots around here in Boise. You definitely see them around. But moving up from the A6, I think there is a noticeable uptick in terms of interior quality when you move from like the lower, like the A3 to the A6. There's definitely a bump in terms of the quality of the interior, even from the base level and moving your way up of trims of that. But going to the Cayenne, I think even though it's an SUV, Porsche does take the driving dynamic seriously, so you do wind up getting a really competent driver. I think it'd still be fun to drive, even a 3-liter diesel. Not the most exciting, but I still think it's more exciting than the A6, and love the air suspension. And a number of the complaints people have about expensive problems and stuff is when air suspension goes wrong, goes bad. It's definitely something that you kind of have to just understand going in, that there's always a possibility that there's going to be a leak or something that needs to be dealt with, or you have some of those, the bags just don't want to work and get stuck in a funny position or something. I've seen all that stuff happen to people with not just aftermarket airbags, but like, factory ones, like on a Land Rover, Range Rover, or something famously have those issues. But in the case of Porsche ones, I think, when it comes to the parts supplier, you're using a lot of the same stuff as a car manufacturer, even though your actual other bits are, inherent to the vehicle or designed for that specific vehicle. Things like air suspension systems, while they can be tweaked, there's definitely suppliers who will make like a particular one that they give out to lots of different places that buy them and spec them and all that. But anyway, I'm going off on a tangent. I think it's a perfectly fine vehicle for you to have in your family. Yeah, we're lucky to have companies that overhaul them. That's good. Yeah, no. And where you are, it's probably actually easier for them to get supplies. Whereas here in the US, it's more of a journey. But in Austria, you're much closer to Germany, so you're still able to get a lot of, those parts and stuff fairly quickly, I would imagine. But yeah, no, I think that's a solid choice for you. It makes sense. Even with the higher miles and stuff, I wouldn't necessarily be scared of that. I mean, my level of scared of a Cayenne or a Touareg has everything to do with the vehicle itself and not necessarily the mileage on it, because I feel like no matter what you do, it's going to be, the same level of risk, more or less. Just really based on the previous ownership experience, that kind of stuff. Whether you got a lemon or not. But moving from the A6, I feel like the Cayenne would be a solid move. The interiors are very nice in these. I never heard anybody complain about the Cayenne's interior, at least after the first gen and stuff. But no, it seems like it's a nice place to be. So yeah, no, I think moving from your A6 makes sense. If you're bored and you want to mix it up, the Cayenne would probably be actually more fun to drive, which is a funny thing to say, but I think it really would be, because the A6 is totally meant to just be a placid, driver experience, nothing crazy. I can get overhauled airstrip for 500 to 600 euro. Yeah, wow, that's probably a lot cheaper than here for sure. Yeah, anyway, lots of shipping to get it here. Yeah, nice. So I think you're in good hands. Well, on that note, it is literally 12:05 in the morning. It's past midnight now. I think I ought to shut things down here, but it's been a pleasure hanging out with y'all, and I really appreciate you. So thank you to those of you who stuck around, to those of you who were chatting and all that stuff. Appreciate it. Thank you. Hopefully we had ourselves a fun little Sunday. But now that it's Monday where I am, Yeah, probably time for me to change things up. So I got to get to work. I got a lot of stuff to do at my day job today. So got to look forward to that. So, with all that said, I wish you all a wonderful evening and take care out there. I will see you next time I go live, hopefully for some detailing stuff. If not Monday, then I will do something on Tuesday. It just depends on how busy things get at work. And yeah, we'll figure it out from there. Dan, you have a great night. Dino, all y'all, everybody, have a wonderful night. I will see you around. All right, Rhino, have a good night too. All right, popping on the music and getting out of here. See you guys.